All right, all right. Well, hello, everybody. This has been a great day so far. It's a beautiful day outside in Colorado and stuff like that, and I am joined with an extremely special guest. We know and love his videos, the Art Chad. So, Art Chad, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's 6 p.m. here in Toronto, and just hanging out, hit the gym, editing, grind set kind of day. Just ate a microwave potato and some sardines.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'm feeling good.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean, a microwave. Oh, say that one more time.
I'm feeling healthy. I'm feeling clean.
That's so real. Dude, sardines and stuff like that kind of give you like a revitalization. You feel like your body's being rejuvenated.
Yeah, dude, the omega-3s. I've been in and out of diet like rabbit holes and red pills. I've gone through a lot of diets, and definitely like cutting out omega-6 and seed oils and focusing on like omega-3 and eating sardines every day. It's been good. I'm very incredulous with that shit. Like if something doesn't work, I hate when diet people are like, "You have to try this fucking thing. It changed my life." I'm like, no, it didn't. There's no way. But there's very few things that I would truly recommend, and like omega-3, creatine, and like mouth taping, just very basic stuff you can do. So good.
It's really good because it's full on lifestyle changes too. A lot of dieting people, it almost feels like they promote that lifestyle and then they want to go back to eating unhealthy after they like reach their goal weight or their goal fitness.
Yeah, I know. And people are just everyone has something to sell you as well, right? Like it's really good engagement if you make a claim that a certain diet or a certain food is like life changing, right? So it's very good to be skeptical of like, here the way I always slice it is like, the Lindy effect.
I think I've heard of it before, like, but detail it again.
It's just how long something has been around is like indicative of its importance and how long it will be around in the future. So when you're talking about like diet, right? The idea that in 2026 a new superfood comes out of nowhere that changes everyone's life is like, sort of bullshit. There's no way. But like basic, stuff that's been around for thousands of years, like fish and fasting and cardio, it's basic stuff.
No, it totally makes sense because a lot of those diets, especially during the 80s and 90s, were produced by like food companies to basically demonize certain things like fat. I mean, fat, they literally associated that with like being fat. And it's like, no, dude, the sugar is what's affecting you.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane to think even like when I'm 27, when I was a kid, all the school snacks you would get would be like these weird like low calorie cookies. Like that era of diet food in like the early 2000s when I was like an 8-year-old boy. And my parents, like, God bless them, but would just like, oh, this is healthy. It's like a low calorie cookie. I'll put this in my son's lunch. I'm like, it's insane to think now. Like, I couldn't imagine doing that now, like giving my if I had kids, giving my kids like packaged cookies for their lunch snack, right? It's nuts.
It's absolutely insane. And then another thing I remember too with a lot of like colas or whatever is they'd have aspartame in them. And aspartame is honestly a lot worse than just having straight up sugar. But people are like, oh, it's 0 calorie. And it's like, yeah, and if it heats up in your body, it becomes formaldehyde. Like you're poisoning yourself slowly.
Yeah, same with what are the new ones out now? My friend is so into like the folly of weird sugar analogs.
Oh, like stevia and stuff like that?
Stevia is okay. There's is it maltodextrin I'm thinking of?
I think
potassium
so.
Sorbate. Yeah, there's a bunch now. There's a bunch that like basically popped out of nowhere like 5 years ago. And now it's like they're in like you buy an energy drink and it has some sugar substitute you've never heard of that has no long-term studies on it. Right? I'd rather just eat cane sugar. Like at least cane sugar is a plant. Or like corn syrup. Like corn syrup is like, you know what it is at least.
No, dude, that's so real. I mean, I guess someone could take like maybe the like Clav approach and they're like, okay, if I do like some Fent and some meth to Looks Max or something, maybe I don't care. But it's like, I don't know. I don't want something that I'm going to like drink it and there's no long-term study. And then suddenly I'm like sterile or something like that. That would freak me out.
Oh my God, dude. Dude, Clav's having Cloud's in a moment right now. I was trying to. It's really funny. Okay, so about 2.5 years ago, I did a video on the black pill. And I like summer 2023. And I remember when I made that video, I felt at the time I was like, oh, this is peak. Like I was apprehensive to release the video because I was like, oh, this is such a dead horse. Like, why would I release this black pill looks maxing video now? And that was 2.5 years ago. And now it's like I tried to reach out to Collab for an interview on transhumanism 4 months ago. And now it's like, you know, Rolling Stone is trying to interview him. Like he's so big now. He's like totally mainstream. There's these fucking there's this company called Wealth Simple, which is sort of like you can't day trade on it, but it's a third party investing app. It's sort of like Robinhood a little bit for Canada. Canada is really weird, strict it's really hard to day trade in Canada. So there's a lot of restrictions around like third party investing apps and shit like that. And they have these ads all over Toronto on billboards that say like the future is like bunker maxing, invest in whatever. The future is in the future you're nature pilled. Invest in this, right? And these the giant billboards saying like maxing and pilled and all this fucking like looksmax.org lingo that has been around for 10 years. It's insane to see.
It's insane. And it almost reminds me of that one meme where it's like the red dudes and they're all like kind of cherishing a meme or something. And then corporations start cherishing it too. And everyone throws it out. I feel like in some ways, because they've adopted that language, it's kind of indicative that that's become the culture. But I feel like they're going to kind of move on to the next thing. And I'm interested to see what it's going to be.
Oh, God. I can't even think, man. I'm so like I'm pretty online. Like, I'm on Twitter a lot. I can't even think what is bubbling up. I could see the like the Goy Slop Goyim shit, like I think that going really mainstream. There was that video of somebody running for Congress. I think it was in Nashville, and he's talking about school lunches, and he says he's like talking to these students.
It's
and
James
like,
Fishback in Florida. Yeah.
And he's like, oh, your school feeds you Goy Slop. And I'm like, holy fuck. Like that's broken containment now.
It's gotten out. Dude, the SCP, the meme SCP has gotten out. It's just ravaging havoc right now. It's so funny. Like, it almost seems like even terms like Goyim or what have you were such like niche kind of forum language that I would have never thought in a million years it would have broken in any mainstream politics, business. Now it's like everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, even like slop as a suffix comes from Goy Slop. Like that's the original. Right. Like when someone says like, oh, this is AI slop, like AI slop as a concept, because English is really good at producing new compound words, right? Like English, if a prefix and a suffix are both relatively widely known, you can smash them together. So you can say AI slop, and if you know what slop and AI mean, you can just make new words, right? English is really good at that. But slop as a suffix comes from Goy Slop. Like that's AI slop is like etymologically descendant from Goy Slop, right? And AI slop is totally mainstream. AI slop is in like, there's like New York Times and Wired and Vox articles using like AI slop. But I don't think they know that it comes from Goy Slop.
No, they don't. And not to mention, too, I remember, I think someone made like a Luigi Mangione meme or something like a month ago. And symbols like the black sun, the rotating black sun that people would use in edits, they would use like variants on that. Or like they do the like meme of a monkey and it was like bananas going around. I'm like, it's so weird how subtle it's like kind of infiltrated culture at that point.
Yeah. No, it's insane. It's truly insane.
So, oh, go ahead, brother.
No, I just want to say. So you said you're Catholic apologist. That's what you described yourself as. Yeah,
that's my main thing I was known for and stuff like that. I don't know if you recognize me at all, but one of my face was in one of your videos. I was that guy on Jubilee with Mehdi Hassan, and I blew up from that a little bit more. But then I had been doing stuff prior to that, and that was like one of my more like recent moments or whatever. But yeah, I've been doing the Catholic apologetic stuff for about 4 years now.
Wait, one sec. Were you the like what if I am a fascist guy?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay, that just went full circle. I had no idea. Okay.
No, that's totally fine. And two, I'm an open book or whatever. I know. Some people might hear that and they're like, "Oh, this guy's like a freak or something." I'm an open book. I'm a normal dude. I promise.
Interesting. Okay, so walk me through that then, because I don't think I don't watch. You know, it's funny. I actually had a conversation with John Ronaldo.
Oh wow.
Who was he like the guy who worked at Jubilee, who came up with, he doesn't work there anymore, but he came up with the surrounded format. So, and I know I've seen a few of them. I watched, who did I watch recently? I watched Tim, because I had Tim Miller in my podcast.
Oh, and he just did he have a recent episode?
Yeah, Tim Miller had a recent Surrounded.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he's interesting. He was a Republican, and in 2016 he was involved in Jeb Bush's campaign. And then when Trump won the first time, I think he started distancing himself, and now he's independent, but he's more like he was like a never Trump Republican, and then switched, and now he's basically like Democrat Republican mix.
That makes sense. Maybe more like fiscally conservative. He's like center right, but now I feel like I was just talking about this. It's like that meme from 2016 that was really big of like people in the center on the spectrum, and then the left running away, and then all of a sudden the centers became right wing. I feel like we're in the reverse, where the right is running so far right that centrists now find a larger home, like with the big tent on the left. So I feel like he's been a subject of that. Like, it's just by the virtue of being a centrist for a decade, is now more associated with like left-wing politics, like very center left, not far left. Right. And that kind of makes sense too, because it seems like in some ways with the left, there's been somewhat of a like Thermodian reaction, where the kind of more what we define like SJW type people or whatever, they're not really that popular anymore. So it almost seems like the left, in terms of like some of the candidates that they platform now, are a lot more moderate, like how they used to be, rather than kind of like leaning into that archetype like maybe they were around like 2017, 2018.
Yeah, and I think that's what's brought me farther left, because I would have I was a self-proclaimed conservative for most of my like young adult life, like end of high school and like when I started university. And like my biggest gripe, like I always try to stay pretty principled, too much to the chagrin of people sometimes, and like free speech has always been one of my biggest issues. Fundamental human rights, like just like very basic, like capital L liberalism, like French Revolution kind of liberalism, right? Because I think that's truly what the West is built off of. And I was more conservative because I saw the biggest threat to that on the left, during like the peak of like left-wing cancel culture. And then like I was 18, 19, white dude at an art school. So I really felt like I was a victim of that at the time when I was much younger. But now that I see that like social blacklisting far more apparent on the right, and the infighting and the purity testing on the right than I do on the left. And people on the left seem like, most of the people I work with and the people I communicate with would like call themselves leftists or left wings or post left or like democratic socialists, like any variation, right? And I don't know any of them who still do the like woke purity testing anymore. That is really a thing that's just like, it exists, but it's so out of style.
Yeah, it seemingly doesn't ring true of how it used to, because I think that it was kind of at the Aurora Borealis. It was like the self-eating snake. At some point, if you went back enough in someone's like online history, or just things that they had said, or even just things conversational pieces they had now, people were just getting canceled for like the most inane stuff. And it was almost like an unsustainable system at that point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 100%. Like when you can't, I don't know, when you build any movement, whatever it is politically, off of purity testing, right? Like it's the issue with fascists, it's the issue with communists, it's the issue with like far leftists or anyone on the far right, like white nationalists. It's just like you can never go far enough, and that is sort of when you remove like fundamental human rights, when you remove like fundamental equality, when you remove capital L liberalism from a movement, it will become like this endless, like increasing division on either side to purity test and go farther and farther and farther to the margins.
And it's almost kind of like how, one day like Robespierre was the champion of the French Revolution. The next day he's getting his head cut off. It's like, it's in some ways that purity test might kind of like outpace you in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'm trying to think of some real life examples, like 2016 to 2020 Trumpers who have turned against Trump. Maybe like Tim Dillon, Andrew Schultz, like all those guys.
Yeah, they because Andrew Schultz, when the recent election was coming up, like he seemed to be very, if I'm thinking, I think I'm thinking of Andrew Schultz, but the comedian seemed to be very pro-Trump. And then kind of after like the 2024 election, where it seemed like either Trump did follow on promises and some of the more center people didn't like that, or he didn't follow that on them enough and they felt maybe kind of betrayed by the election. Kind of are coming back to a little bit of that like centerpiece, as we said before, where they had kind of always been, but intuitively, just because of how the culture was, they felt like they needed to align themselves more with like MAGA or what have you.
Yeah, I think the like Joe Biden's cognitive decline, although I would make the case that Trump is, basically in the same thing right now. Like Biden's cognitive decline and the cover up of that drove so many people away, right? When it's like, and this is like, it feels like the tail end of maybe this early 2010s, mid 2010s, like woke purity test culture, is that it was very clear that to anybody with eyes who could just recognize, basic reality, that Biden was in cognitive decline, Biden wasn't fit to run the country, whether it was Alzheimer's or whether it was dementia or him getting old. There's no diagnosis, but it was very true. And then to have to deny basic reality for the purpose of towing party lines, I think just drove so many people who are fence sitters like totally away from for any sort of democratic or any sort of like left-wing politics, right? That totally makes sense why someone like Tim Dillon, who is like ultimately, I love Tim Dillon, I listen to him constantly, just endlessly critical of no matter what is happening. Like, we'll always call bullshit, we'll always call a spade, right? He's like, okay, well, if I'm on this side and I say Biden's demented, I can't say that, right? I have to deny basic reality. Therefore, right. I'm gonna move farther to the right now. But now the inverse is happening, where it's like Trump is all over the Epstein files. Trump is showing signs of cognitive decline. Do you know the thing with the hand bruises? Have you heard?
Yes. I think I've seen a couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so the biggest theory behind that is that there's I don't want to mess up the medication name. There's an early Alzheimer's medication I think it's called Lexpro. Someone could back me up on that in the chat or correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I've heard of Lexpro before, and I think you're right about that. Like that.
So they inject it, they IV it into your hands once every 2 weeks, and they alternate hands, right? So this is how this medication's administered. And that totally lines up with Trump and being in public every 2 weeks, giant bruise on the hand, alternating hands, right? So there's a lot of evidence pointing to now that Trump is, literally has Alzheimer's. His father died of Alzheimer's at 86. Trump's 79 right now, 78, 79. So anyway, right, we're doing the same thing. It's like the same cycle's repeating. It's like there's this guy in office that's fucked. Everyone hates him. Has so much dirt in his hands, is in cognitive decline, and now it feels like a lot of the people on the right, especially people who are like really hardcore MAGA, have to deny basic reality to toe the party line. Like you saw this today with Pam Bondi in the DOJ that meeting today, where did you see this, any of this?
I actually inform me on this because I don't think I got to see the clip today yet.
It was they've been like, not auditing, I forget the term, addressing the DOJ and addressing Pam Bondi on the Epstein stuff. And Thomas Massey spoke, Congressman Raskin, I forget his name, he's a Democratic congressman. He spoke,
yeah.
Where they just push, like they're asking her questions about the Epstein stuff. And I believe one of them even suggested that why don't we do a joint task force between, like a nonpartisan joint task force between Democrats and Republicans to pursue everyone mentioned in the Epstein files and question them and just do like a really full, like well-funded investigation into everybody. And she was like, no way, Trump's name isn't on it. Trump is totally fine. Everyone's totally fine. So you have the same thing. There are people denying basic reality in order to toe the party line. It's the exact thing that happened in 2020 with Biden.
Well, and really the Epstein files completely, like I've seen a lot of different groups take that and be like, Trump's not our guy, whether it's more kind of like centrist voters that voted for him because of kind of the cancel. Dude, I hate saying the term woke. It sounds like I'm not even saying a real word, but like the woke cancel culture, for lack of a better term. And then it's like, people that are further to the right, like myself, took issue because, Trump originally for us seemed like kind of a bastion of not actual conservatism, but kind of acting as, for lack of a better term, what I would say like a Constantinian figure, allowing us to have these conversations about like maybe white identity or Christianity in the political sphere or what have you. And now it's like, he's covering up the whole Epstein stuff. I mean, just disgusting, right? I think anyone who is a decent human being can look at that and say that's perverse, right? I mean, just the way he was going back on that. And then subsequently how I mean, just from, kid talk on the street, he's got no aura anymore. Like he was funny before, he had kind of charisma or whatever. He doesn't have any of that now. He's like a tired old man. And, because of that, it seems like his most loyal supporters are either like teal plants that are paid off to support him, like the Bronze Age pervert guys, or, any of these other people that are trying to like glaze JD Vance for the 2028 election, or it's like MAGA boomers who haven't really gotten the full picture, but even many of them have kind of woken up to some of his shenanigans.
Yeah. No, the teal plants. That stuff spooks me. That's my like do you know about Project Sunrise? Have you heard of this? It's the redevelopment plan for Gaza.
Yes, I have heard about it, but it sounds like you're gonna cook on a point, so I want to hear it.
So this is like, I think it's such a great sort of instantiation of big tech's and the philosophy of big tech's influence on the administration is like big tech. The way big tech wants to go is fundamentally like undemocratic. It has nothing to do with like American values. It has nothing to do with making America great again. Big tech is moving faster than the law can keep up.
Right.
Right? Like when we did like antitrust and monopoly breakups in like the 30s and 40s and 50s, the famous one with MGM, where at one point one studio controlled the entire vertical of film production. So they had all the actors' contracts. They owned the factories that made the film. They had patents on the canisters that held the film. They had patents on the cameras in the movie theaters. Like they had the entire vertical. So, right, 70 years ago, you could effectively break up that monopoly, and MGM got broken up into like RKO, Paramount. I believe there was 3 more that got broken up into 5 companies. Right, so we have this history of breaking up these big monopolies because capitalism eventually will produce these monopolies. That's why we have guardrails to break them up to keep things even. Big tech now is just moving so quickly the law can't keep up. Right, the first lawsuit of an artist suing a AI company was Sarah. Sarah Anderson. You'd recognize her comics. She makes these very cute, like black and white, like woman with a cat kind of like web comics.
Oh yeah.
So she sued Stable Diffusion in 2023 for indiscriminately web scraping her artwork and putting it into data sets without asking. That case hasn't even gone to trial yet because the law moves so slowly, right? So that's 2023. You've gone from, really, really bad recreations of like Will Smith eating spaghetti. Within 2.5 years, you've gone to like 1-to-1 recreations of whatever artist you want. And there's still no trial on the first lawsuit of an artist suing an AI company. So big tech's goal is to always be ahead of the law and then positions itself in a place where there will be no like democracy to get in the way. This is the fundamental project of neoliberalism. So to wrap back around, Project Sunrise, which is the redevelopment plan for Gaza, it was written by Jared Kushner, by a bunch of White House aides. They're trying to get Qatar on board, Egypt, Turkey, I believe, UAE, like a lot of the Abraham Accord countries as well, to, in Gaza, basically level it, get rid of all the rubble, move the displaced Palestinians, and build like the first network state where it's AI governance. It's run like a company. There's no democracy. There's no voting. It's run by a CEO. This is Curtis Yarvin. Like Curtis Yarvin's kind of ideal is this CEO monarch of a sovereign corporation. To instantiate that for the purpose of allowing big tech to incubate somewhere where there will be no laws, right? Like that won't be in America. There's no future where in 5 years from now, all these tech companies are continuing to grow the American GDP. Like that's just the Bay Area, and it has to move out of America. It has to go somewhere else where there is literally no guardrails for it to grow. So when you're talking about like the teal influence, the big tech, like the anti-democratic, post-democratic network state, big tech influence in the government, that's the end goal of it, right? I think like ultimately someone like Trump and the old stock Republican staffers in the Trump administration don't even have a part in the future. They're sort of just there, right? Like what's actually happening when you're talking about like Vance, when you're talking about Teal, when you're talking about how fast big tech moved right wing and moved to mega. That's why, because that's going to like confirm a future where they can basically build this like post-democratic network state with mass surveillance, with AI governance, where everyone has a digital ID, right? That's the direction it's going.
100%. And I mean, you see kind of this almost taking place in the sociopathic behavior of someone like JD Vance, where he's grown in a lab. I mean, he's had like 2 name changes, right? Nothing that he does. And I think the reason that people don't like him as a candidate or really as a person is everything that he does feels fake and performative. It feels kind of like you were drawing up a politician archetype in your head and making that a person. And really the reason why is because he's exactly trying to go kind of post-MAGA with this, exactly like you were saying. Art Chad, do you want me to call you by your actual name or as Art Chad?
You can call me actual. I feel like, yeah, you can call me my actual name.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't care either way.
As you were saying, Brogan, like, basically there's this idea that Teal has used kind of the fumes of MAGA to fuel what's coming next. And what's coming next is this technocratic nightmare. I had this gentleman by the name of Basil. I think you'd really like his stuff on X. He's great, and he covers like a lot of this weird kind of Teal connection. But one of the things he remarked on is they don't really have any allegiance to any political side. They have their own vision, right? Because on the one hand, they'll fund like the Red Scare podcast with like Dasha and the other girl that I can't remember the name of. And that's kind of more like the post-left, like Bernie, Bernie supporters who maybe got kind of burnt out on it and are now moving into kind of the next stage of what it means to be left wing. And then on the other hand, it's like you've got like the Bronze Age pervert kind of like Nietzschean masculine types that represent this kind of like right-wing coalition of Teal's network. But ultimately, they have the same vision of, again, something like a Project Sunrise, where they're going to usher in this sort of technocratic surveillance state that we're all going to be imprisoned under. And it's been interesting because a lot of left-wing and right-wing people have recognized this, right? I mean, the ascendancy of Elon, especially under the, kind of Trump campaign and the Trump movement, and the fact that, all these big tech giants that a year ago were all paying lip service to kind of censorship and what have you from the left, now suddenly became like based and right wing. I don't think so. I think what it is they're seizing the moment. They're seizing the momentum to usher in what comes next. And what comes next is exactly that technocratic nightmare that we're trying to avoid.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and they were seizing the moment when they were left wing, right? It was like, if you go back to 2016, when you would associate big tech with sort of like wokeism or whatever, it was ultimately to keep their like new hires happy, to keep their staff happy, because their staff was all coming out of big liberal universities in the U.S. And it was to go with the sitting administration, to go with the side that was going to like benefit them the most. Like capital isn't political. Capital is capital, right? It is above everything, right? So you have a company like Apple where for 4 years they're like, oh yeah, this left-leaning, left-coded Bay Area futuristic tech company, and then within 6 months of Trump, they're gifting Trump a golden statue.
it makes
what was it? The solid gold. Yeah, the solid gold. You saw that, right? Like the solid gold plaque they gifted. Like Tim Cook is in the Oval Office gifting Trump this solid gold plaque.
It's crazy. You would have never imagined something like that. He postured himself as being anti-big tech and anti-big censorship, and now it's like he's in bed with those same people we once called enemies.
Yeah. I mean, this is like when I think about fascism, when I talk about fascism, this is okay. This is contentious because I think I'm not saying you, but a lot of the right has sort of begun to equate calling somebody fascist or calling out fascism as analogous to like violence, right? Calling somebody a Nazi. And I've seen this a lot on Twitter. I've seen this a lot in interviews or like podcasts. When someone says like, "Oh, you're a fascist," the right seems to take that as like violent language. Like it's like defaming somebody. It's very violent rhetoric. When I talk about fascism, and I feel like I really have to define this. It's like the specific kind of like Mussolini style fascism. That's what fascism definitionally is. Like Mussolini started fascism as a movement,
right? And
Mussolini's fascism ultimately was about pandering to power to gain power, right? So when Mussolini came up, before he was the leader of Italy, when he just had this sort of fascist movement that was growing, he would always pander to like revolutionary artists, the Italian futurist movement, which like gave birth to like so much design, so many like car designs. Like it's one of the most important art movements of the 20th century. They were all Italian fascists in the after World War I in the 1920s. Mussolini swore off the Catholic Church. He thought the Catholic Church was the worst thing to happen in Italy. He thought the Catholic Church needed to be completely usurped from power because they were keeping Italy away from growth. And then once Mussolini gains power and he has his, he sort of has his hold where he can start like operating the way he wants to, immediately swore off the artists. It's like, fuck those people. I'm not dealing with those people anymore. I don't want any revolutionary, like avant-garde leftists in my movement. The Catholic Church is based. I love the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church started supporting Mussolini. They had a good symbiotic relationship. And then when Hitler started coming to power in 1933, Mussolini thought Hitler was a dork. Mussolini thought judging anybody based on race was ludicrous. He has this very famous quote, which you might know, of race is 5% of what makes somebody up. You shouldn't pay attention to race. Race is meaningless. Right. We're going to go post-racial. And then once Hitler was more influential than him, Mussolini goes anti-Semitic because he realized that, okay, now that I'm like not the top dog in Europe anymore, right? Now that I'm subservient to Hitler, I have to pander to Hitler. So all of the anti-Semitism and all the anti-Semitic laws that came from fascist Italy came after Hitler got big because he had to pander to Hitler. So that style of fascism, which is exactly what big tech is doing, is this constant pandering to power to gain power. I think like Epstein's a great example a little bit, right? Like Epstein's whole project, it seems from the documents like over the last 2 weeks, was just building this massive fucking network where he's like, there's evidence he's Mossad, there's evidence he's a Russian spy, there's evidence he's selling secrets to Saudi Arabia. There's evidence he was like pro-Democrat, pro-Trump, friends with Noam Chomsky, friends with Steve Bannon, right? Like just completely building this like unprincipled, unbased, multilateral network for the purpose of instantiating his own power. Like that's truly what fascism is.
Well, and in some ways it kind of becomes very obsessed with just the acquisition of power, whatever means that takes place. It's almost in some ways a very Nietzschean idea, this kind of beyond good and evil view where it doesn't matter what you pander to, it doesn't matter what the cultural movement is at the time. It's like seize that moment for power, for vitality, take hold, kind of entrench your way into it. And then from that point, the world is your oyster. I mean, it's funny how in one conversation, Epstein would be almost seemingly promoting kind of like transgenderism or what have you. And then he's like talking up Steve Bannon like you and I are going to go get like a burger or something, right? It's a total kind of sycophantic desire to just be in with all crowds so that you're never kind of at odds with anybody and you never have anyone to really take away that power you want to acquire.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. And I think it's very like the world is so post-definitional. is so post definition, right? Like this happened with, I'm trying to think the first time this happened, like terrorist, right? Like terrorist means something very specific. And then terrorist started sort of losing its meaning in the early 2010s. And then Nazi sort of lost its meaning, where Nazis like, okay, anybody I don't like on the right wing is a Nazi, even though it's not what Nazi means. And now we're there with fascist, where it's like fascist is just this nebulous word that means right wing thing I don't like, which is not what it means, right? I think it's very important to like clarify what fascism is and why fascism is like fundamentally bad. Because if you don't clarify what you're talking, if we don't clarify like what the definition is, we're all over the place. Like it's apples to oranges.
Absolutely. Well, and at that point, when you have a definitional issue, you have kind of a conceptual issue as well. You're not on the same page of what something is. You're not on the same page of like the nature of politics really at that point. I mean, someone could say that a fascist is anywhere from sort of what the authoritarian personality would define it to something like a Peter Thiel or Jeffrey Epstein, where it's just someone who's willing to use the leverages of power to get where they want to go and affect their goals.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, 100%.
And I think in some ways, you know, I think it's funny. I'm glad I'm able to talk with you kind of that post Jubilee thing, because I think a lot of people, you know, who might be more like left leaning or what have you, might think it's like, oh, it's, you know, he's just this basement dweller who's trying to be edgy or what have you. And don't get me wrong, I was trying to kind of troll Mehdi specifically a little bit, because I think that the vibe of that day when we recorded the episode was that he was this not very sincere person, right? He wasn't going to engage with us on a level of wanting to get to the bottom of truth, but instead kind of using those definitions, like hurling kind of those like political slurs out. So I said, okay, we're just going to kind of troll this guy. But I think in reality, when we sit down like we are now and we're having kind of a discussion about politics, what's beautiful is I think we get to understand more the motivations by which we're operating and stuff like that. And people don't come out as two-dimensional characters anymore. Like there's a lot of left-wing people I oftentimes find myself in conversation where we're both very considerate of, you know, what's going on with the Palestinian population right now in Israel. And it's horrific to watch those videos on our screen and see, you know, children being torn apart. You know, we're told by like the State Department they're all terrorists, and it's like all I see is women and children and old men, bro. Like you're not gonna lie to me in this moment. And seeing, I think at the end of the day that it's like we have those moments where we almost either come together or we kind of agree more, because it's just a very human moment. It's just a very like human emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of off topic, but it's really funny. I used to be like probably 2018. I was a huge fan of like the intellectual dark web group.
Oh, really?
I was a big fan of Sam Harris forever. And I had Sam Harris's meditation app. I would listen to Sam Harris's podcast constantly. I thought Sam Harris is really interesting. And he's just like so dogmatically Zionist that he's fallen off the face of the earth. Like I don't see anybody talk about Sam Harris or invite Sam Harris on anything anymore, because it's like that's one of those issues, right? Where it's like if you can't agree with base reality, if you are going to keep denying what is in front of your eyes to toe your party line or to toe your beliefs, right? Like you can't admit there's a genocide in Palestine. Like, how can I trust you? And that's totally like Sam Harris is a victim of that. Ben Shapiro is a victim of that. Ben Shapiro is totally like his numbers are massively down over the past 2 years. And it seems like there's this old stock of conservative influencer who just is like, they're not going to come back. Like Ben Shapiro's moment is over. Sam Harris's moment is over, you know?
100%. And in that time, you know, they had kind of the Jordan Peterson blow up where they were the voice of reason. Facts don't care about your feelings. Well, what about the fact that there is a genocide going on and these people flat deny it? Isn't that a fact? Yeah. You know, like it's so funny that they made their legacy based on that. They made their legacy on being principled like you've striven to be, Brogan. And instead, I think in recent years, we've seen the mask torn away and they have these massive oversights where they're trying to cover up something just to toe that party line.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as educated on the facts of the history of the Israel-Palestine conflict as I should be. I think there's a few things I know, but it's nothing I would ever like make serious statements about. But it's insane to see like just the examples of the stranglehold, like the Winter Olympics, right? Wasn't what Russia? No, what am I thinking of? Is Russia competing in the Olympics?
I believe Russia is banned this year.
Yeah, so like Russia is banned, but Israel isn't, right?
And you heard the boos when they're walking in.
Yeah, they got booed, right? And that's not to make light of what Russia's doing. It's just to say that it's analogous, right? It's a country invading a sovereign territory, and violating international law. But for some reason, one of them the international community is okay with, and from one of them, it's like, oh, Russia, we can't support Russia, right? It's like, no, you cannot support either of them. I don't think the Russian Olympians don't deserve to get banned, right? It's not like the teams aren't state funded. Like Team America is not state funded. Team America is corporate funded, right? So it's like it has nothing to do with the country. It's an independent organization that runs off of money and profit. So to ban a country symbolically for no reason, and then to not ban another one that's arguably committing a worse atrocity is fucking insane.
It's absolutely insane, and I think there's a Jewish writer who you might have heard of his name before. Oh, before I bring him up, do you watch GDF? Oh, we got $3, Brogan. The stream is ending the left-right divide. Great collab, brothers. Anonymous. Thank you for the 3 anonymous. Do you watch GDF at all on YouTube?
I get recommended. I've seen a few GDF videos. I get recommended them a lot. That's like Gentile Defense Force, right?
Yes. And
or Goy Defense Force, one of the two.
Actually, does it stand for Goy Defense Force? I know he's kind of I know he's an anti-imperialist. I don't know what his exact political leaning is. I think he's maybe an anti-colonial. And when I say Marxist, I don't mean this as a slur. I mean more like the IRA or what have you, like an anti-colonial Marxist, from what I know. But he's great. He makes great videos on the history of the conflict and stuff like that. I highly recommend his stuff. But there was a Jewish writer by the name of Israel Shayhawk that, brings up the fact that on the world stage, I think what Israel oftentimes does is they, sort of appeal to the legacy that they've had, stuff that went on during World War II or what have you, is kind of jacketing themselves from criticism. Whereas Russia, even though Russia's been through tragedies or whatever, it's easy to like look at them and say, okay, you're banned from the Olympics. You don't really have any like moral high ground to stand on. Whereas a country like Israel, every single time they've done something or they've been called out to something, they do this callback to what happened during World War II or what have you. And it's like, well, we're not engaging with that right now. We're talking about your action here, right? It's not saying we want to destroy people's lives or hurt people. It's like you just bulldoze like somebody's house, right? Like somebody's 500-year-old like villa or something where they grew olives. Like what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, you have Barry Weiss, who just took over editor-in-chief as CBS, did a town hall meeting. And she said this live. This wasn't like a hot mic. She said this to an audience. She said, Holocaust education failed Americans because they took away the wrong message. The message wasn't that genocide is bad or that this is bad or the other thing. The message was that like violence against Jewish people is bad. So like, that's an insane thing to fucking say. That's an insane thing to say like, oh, like this one's fine. The Holocaust wasn't about like the tragedy of any sort of genocide or ethnic cleansing. The Holocaust is only about Jews. And then the fact that Americans have taken away that genocide is bad. Holocaust education has failed Americans, right? She said that. That's fucking insane.
100%. Well, and it goes back to kind of that cancel culture that we talked about earlier, where it's like a new form of cancellation. It's not like you're saying, well, I want to especially attack Jewish people because I want to find just any reason to do it. It's like, I think most people recognize that if any group's being harmed or genocided or mistreated, that's wrong, right? That any ethnic group being mistreated is wrong. And instead, it's like, there's this kind in Barry Weiss's world, there's this special treatment of Jewish people, like their tragedy takes a special place, but then everyone else is just kind of like, what am I, like, chopped liver, right? I mean, it's insane because it creates kind of like a difference in value of a human life. Whereas we recognize that it's like all human life is valuable. So it's like if a Jewish person's dignity is being harmed, of course that's wrong. But then if a Palestinian person's life or any other ethnic group's life is being harmed, that's also wrong too. And why should anyone get a special out excuse or be elevated above the rest?
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%.
So, oh, dude, I was just about to ask you a question about yourself, but we got another 3. Thank you for the 3 red win. Let's see here. Oh, and I told you, Brogan, that I'll split everything that comes in with you 50-50, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't have to if you don't if it's too much work. I'm totally fine.
Dude, it's not any work at all. I'm just happy to have you on. Redwin sent $3. He said, "Hey, Pinesap, I don't mean to bother you, but can you please pray for my dad? He's a bit that word censored, and suffers from Catholic derangement, agnostic and suffers from Catholic derangement syndrome. Thank you, brother. God bless." Yeah, we'll pray for your dad, brother. I appreciate that. Brogan, I've been wanting to ask you this entire time, man. You've hinted at it in your videos, and I've always been very kind of inspired by it and wanted to know more about your story. It seems like you've had this kind of, for lack of a better term, what I'd call like spiritual odyssey with like philosophy and what have you. I know you touched on this, like, I believe either it was in your black pill or your red pill video where you were talking about like Pearl Davis and, you know, her whole shenanigans and stuff like that about, you know, you had been kind of maybe in the red pill sphere for a bit, but then you came out of that. Just walk us through your life and your spiritual odyssey, brother. I think we all want to know more about you.
Trying to think. By do you mean like with religion or just with like my values?
Honestly, with all, mostly like maybe philosophical, theological, and just kind of your general like life totality, like the way that you see the world.
I think I don't know. I find a lot of how I've changed over the years just comes from learning more about the world and just becoming like better educated in a broad sense. Like when I was younger, I was a lot more reactionary, and I think a lot of like totalitarian ideals were attractive to me because they market themselves as very sexy and they market themselves as very effective, right? But my fundamental critiques have always been my fundamental values have always been like free speech, fundamental human rights, liberalism, you know, everyone born equal, everyone deserves an equal chance, like very, very classic like Western liberalism kind of stuff. And so I've always positioned myself as like, where am I finding a coalition that is supporting those values and who seems to be against those values right now, right? So like I said, when I was a lot younger, I was very, very like, I would have been like an anti-woke conservative like shit poster, like 18, 19, 20, and then just moved away from that. And then now my biggest issue with a lot of right-wing, especially like commentators and pundits, because I feel like I have to make this distinction. A lot of people who are like self-proclaimed leftists or self-proclaimed on the left never make the distinction when they're complaining about the right wing or they're complaining about conservatives or whatever they're complaining about. They never make the distinction on like what the group is, right? I totally understand why somebody, and I've been through like a lot of the states. I've been to like West Virginia. I've been to all these places. I totally understand why somebody, and where I'm from in Canada is very poor. I'm from Nova Scotia, born and raised. It's the poorest. It's the lowest GDP compared to any state or province in North America. Like, there's no state in the U.S. that is a higher GDP or even equivalent than Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia is really, really low. So Nova Scotia is really poor. That's the world I grew up in. I totally understand why somebody who is just working class and who wants things fixed and who hates bureaucracy and hates all the teetotaling would vote for somebody on the right because they think it's the best and fastest way to improve their lives, right? Especially when the right is pandering more towards like civic national values, which I totally agree with, right? I think the left has done a horrible job, less so now, but historically, like over the last decade, the left has done a horrible job at accepting I think the objective standpoint that like Western culture is the best culture on earth, right? It's the reason why America and Canada and Western Europe are the countries that are the farthest ahead of anybody else. It's the reason why you can come here, you can make money, you can live your life. You have freedom of speech, you have freedom of you have representation, you have freedom of expression. You can do whatever you'd like, right? And those, it's because we have this freedom. And I think to try to make an equivalence between like American culture and like Afghanistan or China or somewhere else and be like, oh, all culture's the same. It's like, no, it's not the same. We live in the best part of the world. End of story. And the left has done a very, very poor job of like even attempting to deal with that fact. They equate it to like racism, which it's not racism. It's not even xenophobia, right? Like you can objectively say like the Taliban run Afghanistan is a worse place to live than Canada or America or the UK or Norway or Germany or France. That's not based in anything ethnic or racial. That is just a fact on how these countries are run. So my principles have always been like freedom, first and foremost, not truly like in the libertarian sense, but in like a democrat or like a social democrat kind of sense. Like I definitely moved away from the right, and I moved away from more totalitarian thinking. Sorry, I didn't finish my previous point. I just remembered. So I see why. Sorry, I started like 5 stories at once here.
Dude, you're totally fine. I just want to let you know if there's any nerves or whatever on your end. I'm lucky to be able to speak to you, man. So don't feel pressured at all. No, we love this.
You're good. I just think really fast and go through so many things so quick in my head. So when I see that more on the left now than I do on the right. I see, like I said before, I see the right as the people doing more of this purity testing, more anti-democratic, more moving away from like fundamental human equality into a social Darwinist, a world rooted in like biological realism where some people are less than others. I see those ideas bubbling up more on the right than I do on the left. I saw it more on the left when I was in university, when I was like 20 in like 2018, 2016. I wouldn't blame somebody who is like working class, who just wants a better future for their family and a better future for themselves and more freedom, because that's what everyone wants. I don't blame those people for voting right wing, because the right seems to offer the best answers, right? Historically, over the last decade, the right is we're the people who are saying like the West is the best, bureaucracy sucks, all this shit sucks. We want you to like be able to make money and have a house and have property and defend your property and have children. So I totally understand why someone would vote right. I don't blame anybody for voting right and for voting for MAGA. But now that it's so demonstrably untrue, and all MAGA seems to have left now, and all that kind of brand of conservatism, all they have left now are the pundits, right? Like you have like someone like Tim Pool, who seemingly against all of his values and why he started his career, is still endlessly towing this MAGA party line, even though it's like it's unequivocally against his values or what he claims his values are. And so seeing this combination of the right totally moving away from its values and then right-wing pundits backing up the administration in order to keep their seat in power, in cultural power, and in social power, is just so frustrating. It's so frustrating. It's so just deeply evil and immoral.
Mm.
So now I feel like the only home for me, and the only home for people who, really believe in like just fundamental equality as a first principle, is the left. I don't see it much on the right. And the right wingers I see who, like, again, I'm fine with most right wingers. The right wingers I see who are open to those ideas are the ones moving away from MAGA. Even like, I disagree with Nick Fuentes on like many, many fundamental things. But Nick Fuentes even is like, okay, like, what are we doing here? We have to sort of redefine ourselves now. Like, especially the last few months, he seems to totally be he's become disenfranchised with his movement. And he's hated Trump for a while, but to an ever increasing degree.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think in some ways the political landscape has changed in a manner of, what are people's like interests or what's guiding them. And you have a lot of people who, like Nick, for instance, like if you look at his clips or what have you, he's remained the same or consistent. But I think the problem we've had, to give some context to kind of that side, since I'm on that side of the internet, those people are all my friends and stuff like that, is there's a lot of people that kind of are like come latelys, right? Like they came to the party late and suddenly it's like they're going to lecture us about how we've been doing things or how we've thought of things for like the longest time, right? So, a good example is like, I think you've probably seen the craziness with Candace Owens, right? Like the Sumerian tablets and the time travel and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, bro, what are we doing? Like, this is just false, right? Or, almost this idea of, I remember for a long time too, and I won't cut corners. I speak about the Jewish question a lot and stuff like that. It's an issue that I do feel like, and we could get into more what I mean by that, but I do feel like it's an issue that's very pertinent to not only our time, but a big part of, the history of the West or what have you. But you get a lot of people that I think Nick has called them like low IQ anti-Semites, where they're blaming like the sinking of the Titanic, like it's the Jews or something. I'm like, bro, like there's no evidence for that. Like, what are you talking about? Right. So in some ways it's the MAGA like culture became more popular, and there were a lot of subsequent movements and subcultures, like we were talking earlier with like slop now being used equivocally with like AI slop or what have you. That culture became more popular, but with it almost took on this sort of I don't know how else to say it, except popularity kind of breeds a level of lack of nuance or like a lack of applying it in the right way that I think now we're starting to see with these people who weren't at the party the entire time, and they're lecturing us about how to do things when we've been here like 4 or 5 years. I mean, I've had the same politics since like 5 years ago, right? And I'll get people on Instagram or whatever when I post something, being like, just because I don't think that Charlie Kirk was killed by Mossad, that I like got the call or something. I'm like, what are you talking about, right? I've been here the entire time.
Yeah, that. Twitter's so bad because it's so addicting, and I have so much fun on Twitter sometimes. But it paints a like a nasty picture of the world. I mean, I get the same stuff. I don't know what people like. I'm pretty open. And especially I have like a podcast, like anybody who watches the podcast is going to be pretty familiar with like, my ideas. They're not going to misjudge me or mischaracterize me. But I get the same thing. Like I'll say anything left wing, even though I'm like pretty openly liberal. And I'll get the same comments of being like, "Oh, you took money." I'm like, "Yes. Me, 145K YouTuber from Nova Scotia got paid by the Democratic Party, or got paid by AIPAC." Like, it's, I don't know. People are crazy, and there continues to be events that I just think breaks people's minds.
Yes.
We have the benefit of being young. Like when COVID happened, COVID didn't break my worldview. No. COVID didn't crack how I think about things. If you're 50 and COVID happens, that would totally shake your understanding of the world. The Epstein stuff as well. I think the Epstein stuff is one of those things that just like breaks people's conceptions of how the world works. And I think if you're old, or you're like a low information person, and that's your introduction to corruption. Your introduction to corruption was COVID, or your introduction to corruption was the Epstein files. Like, yeah, you're going to start defaulting to this worldview where everything is the fault of the Jews, or everything is the fault of like pedophiles and Satanists, and every bad thing that happens is at some point at some point connected to like this secret cabal.
Well, not to mention too, it's like, even with the files, right? And I was actually discussing this with a friend literally yesterday, and I want your thoughts on this, Brogan. I think the DOJ deliberately just kind of mass dumped the files because they knew people would get in this kind of scuffle of like not knowing what was true versus what was false. And in some ways, it like allows the people who are guilty within the files to get off scot-free, because it's almost like if a bar fight broke out and they're off on the side and they're able to just leave the bar without being held like accountable for any of their actions, right? I mean, a good example is, Anonymous, thank you for the $5. Let's see here. He said, oh, come on. I always hate how the events take a moment to load. What a glorious gift to watch Sappy on Wigga Wednesday. Hey, it's a Wednesday. We're appreciating it. We're living it up. We love it, right? We love Canada. We love America. But it's interesting because, you know, you probably saw that line about George Bush Sr., like, oh, he was cutting people's feet off and like eating them and stuff like that. And it turned out, based on the analysis, that it was like some radio call and like a transcript from the email, and people weren't really like making that connection. But intermixed with that, it's like there are very real deals, very real collaborations, very real events that Epstein did engage in. And to equivocate the two, that which, you know, was just like any spam we get in our email, right? I mean, you open up your Gmail and there's a million different newsletters for stuff, and real emails like Epstein was sending out and collaborating with these people. I think it was a deliberate attempt to kind of cover a lot of these people's tracks. What are your thoughts on that?
That's an interesting idea. Flesh Simulator had a great video, his Epstein Files video from last week. I thought it was really good because he makes the same point where it's like, you know, okay, there's the statement about what is that page? It's not a witness statement. I believe, someone's gonna crucify me for getting this wrong, so bear with me. I believe it's an anonymous tip.
Oh yes,
that they had received at some point of Trump like murdering somebody, right?
Right.
Oh, one sec. Sorry, one sec. I just got a giant dono. Oh, thank you for the 100. He said, "Gotta mog feels guys donators. Can't let them think the left is a bunch of brokies."
We're gonna have a donation war now. It's gonna be awesome.
Yes, step your game up. Feels guy chat. Or Pine Sap. Is Pine Sap your main?
Yeah, it's my mate, dude. Yeah. Elon nuked my old Twitter because I was criticizing him on the H1B thing, so I have to go by Feels Guy on Twitter. But yeah, it's Pine Sap.
Okay, yeah, Pine Sap.
And if you feel more comfortable using my real name, it's Connor, but you don't have to if you don't want to.
Okay. Anyway, that page, right? Which I saw a lot of like, you know, like Dean Withers, Harry Sisson, like that kind of apparatus on Twitter sharing around a lot, was just an anonymous tip that was deemed incredible, right? It wasn't uncredible, right? There was no reason to pursue this anonymous tip. But people ran with it, and it's like all that does is detract away from the actual evidence, right? All that does is that just takes away from like what is the actual fucking story. Like, I don't care that someone called in one time and said that Trump murdered somebody. Like, that's irrelevant to me if that's like totally unjustifiable or unbased. So let's focus on, and that was Flesh Simulator's point as well. Focus on what is verifiable from the fucking Epstein files, so people can be prosecuted and put the trial and put in jail for their crimes. And then to the point you're making of it being intentional, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't put it past the administration to fuck up that bad. There was the case today with the DOJ hearing where there was a list of, it was released in the files, and it was a list of victim names. And the reason that list existed is because it was a list of victims who said they didn't want their names to be released, right? So the list was like, here are the names to not release. They requested their names don't be released. And the names aren't redacted. So they just threw that in there. So it's like the file exists for the purpose of making sure the names don't get released. And then the file was put out unredacted. Then you also have like Leslie Wexner being all over the files, but then the one that says he's a co-conspirator, his name is redacted, even though his name is in 1,000 other files. Like, there's so many. I err on the side. Like, I'm pretty incredulous with conspiracies, and I always err on the side of, you know, people just make mistakes, and the mistakes seem conspiratorial. But most of the time, it's as boring as it sounds. It's a bunch of incompetent, you know, aides and staffers who are getting paid $60K, $80K a year, names you've never heard of. They're like, okay, here's here's 10,000 documents, go through and pull out all these names. And it's just some like guy who's 26 in an office doing this for 2 weeks, right? Like that's probably what it is.
Which totally makes sense. I mean, we've both worked jobs where it's like, when you're given a big project, you control F stuff, you're using AI. It's like you're trying to cut down your work like anybody else. And so maybe there isn't a greater conspiracy going on. It's interesting because it's like, it's that old reaction image of the person you hate just made a really good point. Andrew Tate, he's got a lot of problems, a lot of bad things that he does, but he did make this really good point on Twitter where he said, if they're not held accountable for this, they won't be held accountable for anything. And I would completely agree with that sentiment in of itself, where it's like, if this moment is not taken to hold any of these people who are guilty of these horrendous crimes accountable for their actions, it will set a precedent where they can really get away with anything they want. And then at that point, just either have like plausible deniability or just admit it and be like, what are you going to do about it? Right? Like, it's so much bigger than us that you feel almost like you would almost feel powerless to prosecute or go after these people that are so evil and horrendous and wicked, and are really looking to just like ultimately continue to run the show as things have been.
Which it's to my my biggest fear, especially with the Trump administration, is that like you see this is sort of how any totalitarian regime starts to operate. Is, we have this standard in the West that you can't lie, and if you lie, you're held accountable.
Right.
And if you confabulate, you will get held accountable, you will get corrected, and these things will harm your political career. And then when you get, the beginning of totalitarian regimes, when people are elected in, and they start to realize they can get away with a lot more, they start to openly lie, knowing that everyone knows they're lying, like the same way Putin does. Like, Putin doesn't give public addresses where he's trying as diligently as he can to tell the whole truth, right? Putin bold-facedly lies to the citizens of Russia constantly. So does Kim Jong-un. Like, they're not concerned with the fact they're lying, and they know that there's no consequences. And the citizens know they can't call it out because nothing will happen, right? People don't protest in Russia because it's like a bigger headache to protest. People don't protest in Russia because it's like, it's illegal. They might end up in jail. They might get their name on a blacklist the rest of their lives and being able to be hired. Like, there's so many, it's just not worth it. And what truly scares me, to go back to what we were talking about with the sort of convergence of big tech and the presidency, is this alignment of values and approaching a world where, the ICE body cams have facial recognition technology that logs protesters into a blackmail docket as domestic terrorists owned by Palantir, right? Like, this is, and none of this is off base. None of this is unsubstantiated. Like, there is totally things happening right now. There's totally things being signed and things in motion that are, Palantir is creating these blackmail files on Americans whose only crime is being against the sitting administration, right? And the ICE stuff has been a huge issue for even Republicans who have turned against Trump, watching, that boy who got taken out of class, the 5-year-old boy who was they're trying to deport, and he got held in ICE detention and got sick. He got food poisoning from the food he was fed. And all the pictures were all, I forget his name, but the pictures were all over social media, right? And you have Republicans, you have people who are like diehard Trumpers who voted Trump 3 times. Who were like, wait, like that's, I thought we were deporting criminals. Why are we taking a 5-year-old boy out of elementary school and hauling him off, right? And then so the fact that you can be, you can be a pro-Trumper, you can be a Republican, you can be right wing, you can be for the administration, and then once you have an issue with the administration, you can just wind up being forever known as a dissident within some algorithm, and basically have like a shadow social credit score on your acceptance of the city administration. And that's like, when you watch, like, Alex Peretti's murder was labeled a murder, like they're investigating it as a murder now, and that's like, it's not a debate anymore. It's being investigated at the state level as a murder. And you have JD Vance on NBC saying like it's not a murder, and then the interviewer is like, no, it is. Like, it was. I'm not like, this isn't like an ideological claim. It's literally a murder. It's being investigated as a murder. And JD Vance is like, no, it's not. It's not a murder. right? Like 10 years ago, that would have been, career ending. Now it's like he can just fucking say it. Nobody cares. No one's going to stop him saying that. No one's going to go against him for saying that. His job's not in jeopardy. He'll never face any consequences for saying that.
Well, and it's interesting because, now we're in a sort of precedent with the world where I almost feel that because of the polarization of post 2016, where any of the things that have happened, kind of regardless of where you fall on them or what have you, any of the events, there's this tendency where it's very stark to watch like the 2012 election or the 2008 election and kind of look at this like shared civility, or like, I'm not going to go there and calling my opponent this, or using this blackmail or what have you, to kind of this all out like bare knuckle boxing that we've seen for really at this point, like the past 10 years now, right? Where it's this idea of, if I don't undercut them, they're going to undercut me. And so I always have to be on the edge, which kind of creates this desperation or this effect that, now that I'm thinking about it with you, Brogan, like I think could lead to another kind of Epstein type thing, right? Where there's this powerful figure, there's this shadowy figure that comes along and says, hey, I have, in the back of his mind, he's like, I have my own interests. I have my own ways of using these people as my chess pieces for my larger plan, but I'll come to your side, or I'll come to sort of your political arrangement and promise my help, my assistance, my resources. All you got to do is give me what I want. And you go from essentially, not that we killed Epstein, but you go from taking out one Epstein to, in some ways, creating a political vacuum where there's a million of them, because it's this race to the bottom, right? Nobody has any principles. There's no agreed kind of civil law anymore. It's just like anything that can undercut someone, I'm going to do, and I'm going to defend with my teeth to the end. Because if I don't do it, then I lose.
Yeah, I mean, you see this with, the Republicans redrew a lot of like the voting lines, started gerrymandering and voting on like gerrymandering stuff. And now you see the Democrats doing the same thing in response, right? And there's a lot of people like, I listen to a lot of Kyle Kulinski. I don't know if I call myself a Kyle Kulinski. Do you know Kyle Kulinski?
Yeah, I do know Kyle Kulinski.
Yeah. I don't know to the degree I'd call myself a Kyle Kulinski fan, but I just happen to listen to a lot of Kyle Kulinski. And, someone like that, who I disagree with this, who was like, good, fuck the Republicans. We need to do the same thing. We're going to gerrymander. We're going to use their tools against them. And it's like, what precedent does that set? That sets a world where entropy just keeps increasing, where it's like these two sides are at constant war with each other. We don't get back to civility. I'd like to think that, I think sort of I try not to be too super nihilistic, but I don't know if we're getting back that civility. I don't think that civility is coming back. I think we have entered, and whether it was, if Trump is like such a unique case, or if there was, something going on since 2008 where people just lost total trust in the institutions, and it bred the social climate to, it bred a social climate that wanted to do away with civility and wanted to go more into this cutthroat sort of like third world politics that we have now. Regardless of what it was, like, I don't think we're getting back what we had. Like, we're not going to go back to the 1990s. We're not going to go back to the early 2000s where there was this way to conduct yourself, right? We're sort of stuck with this cutthroat world that we've created for ourselves. And I think that's I don't know. That's my biggest black pill. I have no hope pill I have no white pill for the world getting better, or at least the Western politics getting better anytime soon.
Well, and I'm so glad that you kind of touched on that element, because I think you're going to agree with this. Think about how many 2000s nostalgia videos there are now about like growing up and we were playing Wii, or hey, remember those cool scooters in school, like elementary school we would all ride on, or we all went on cool math games, or we all watched this TV station or this cartoon as a kid. Like, nostalgia is a normal part of human life, but in some ways I felt seeing those videos on my social media feed as it's sort of evoking like a deeper feeling of wanting to go back to a world that no longer exists. And I think a world where it felt like there was some sense of normalcy, where you could shut off the TV and politics stopped there, where, maybe an election cycle, you would talk about who you were voting for, but after it was over, everyone went back to life as normal. Whereas now it feels like it dominates such a large part of our lives, where even normal events, what we're seeing as kind of the neutral grounds or neutral settings for things that we experience as kids, are now made political. I mean, the Super Bowl or even the Olympics, to a lesser degree, is like a good example of that. Like, those were seen in the past when we were growing up as neutral grounds, and now politics still very much bleeds into them, and it's like you feel like you almost can't escape. I think that nostalgia is everyone intuitively like wanting to go back to that world of just normalcy that seemingly no longer exists.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. And I do think like I'm pretty bullish on our generation. I think our generation is, not like a victim card here, but I think our generation is probably the largest cohort on the receiving end of the folly of, this sort of late stage political world we've built for ourselves, or that was built for us, that we had no hand in, right? We're just on the receiving end of like the grievances of boomers and Gen Xers. And I do feel a lot of consensus amongst like young people, under 30s. I think there's a ton of consensus on like what we value, what we want. I say this, and then I don't know. Like, I say this because it's like I'm in an online space. I'm in a political space. Like, anybody I talk to is like part of my world usually. So I hope it's the truth. I hope, we seem to be a uniquely educated, aware generation that has a consensus on like what we want out of the world and what we want for ourselves, And, I only hope that when this moment fades, when this weird boomer Gen X, political world dies off and we start to gain age of majority when we're in our 40s and 50s, hopefully we can carry these values throughout our entire lives, and carry this desire for civility and this desire for like a true liberal meritocracy, and have a fighting chance at everything, and carry this into the future. So when we actually have the opportunity to instantiate it, to make it real, we can pull it off. But I don't know. I'm optimistic axiomatically. I think like to be pessimistic is to literally speak it into the world. And I think it's a moral obligation to be optimistic, even if it's, even if you sound like an idiot by being optimistic. It's a moral obligation because you have to carry that spirit with you. You have to carry the spirit of like building a better world for yourself and for your family and for your friends and for your community, and holding that collective principle together. Because if you don't do that, if you're pessimistic, if you're black-pilled, if you're nihilistic, you'll create that world by the virtue of spreading that sort of emetic virus. So I'm optimistic fundamentally. It's hard sometimes, but I don't know. I have hope. Or the world ends in 5 years. I don't know. Or no. Here's my favorite crackpot sort of apocalypse theory is that like, we all think it's going to be China or Russia or the US. And then, Botswana gets AGI first, or Botswana like gets AGI, and then the AGI lights the atmosphere on fire with math we didn't know existed. Like, the world ends in the most random, pathetic way. Like, just some random country accidentally like launches all the nukes with a virus because they got AGI before everyone else. So I don't know.
It's like a Hearts Iron 4 mod or something. Like, I'm going to give this country like a bunch of bioweapons, and it just all goes up in flames.
Yeah, Turkmenistan, some weird nutcase authoritarian regime. I do have to we have more time. I should go like at 7:50. I got to film at 8.
7:50. Okay, so, gotcha.
Like 20 more minutes.
Perfect. Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm trying to think. Let me see. I know this is kind of a big question, but we've kind of talked politics, and one of the main reasons I think I wanted to talk to you specifically, Brogan, was because like something that I find so charming about your video, or not charming, something that I find so meaningful about your videos is that there's this like
sorry, I just got another super chat here. 1 second.
Oh, sorry. No, you're fine, dude.
What is this? Brogan, which Quest protein bar flavor do you think would be Antonio Gramsci's favorite if he were alive today? I don't Quest protein bars. I get the strawberry shortcake one. I think that's the best one. Although I feel like
that's gonna be good.
Sorry, go back to what you said before. But you ever eat protein slop and feel like like Nietzsche's Last Man? Like you eat like the protein clay log, and you're like, fuck, I'm pathetic.
Dude, yes. It's like a fucking like rock in your stomach almost. Like you just feel it inside your body, dude. It's insane. I don't know how you fix that. Do you just avoid protein slop, or what do you do? Do you heat it up in the microwave?
Oh god, I don't know. What do I? Yeah, I mean, I just try to eat whole foods. I've been on sardines and ground beef recently, and eggs and cheese.
Oh hell yeah,
that's always good. Anyway, sorry. Go back to it. But you were on a good. You were gonna say something poignant.
Oh no, of course. Before I forget, I don't know if they sell it up where you're at in Canada, but if you have access to bison, dude, it's great protein and omega-3s and stuff like that. I highly recommend it. I grew up eating it and stuff like that. You would love it.
I've had bison. I think I had bison once. Maybe in Toronto, I could get it, but definitely not. Yeah, there's no bison on the east coast of Canada. So
yeah, no, that totally makes sense. As we were saying though, I think what I like about your videos and what has made me like a longtime watcher is you have this deeper undercurrent of like the human experience and meaning. And that's something that I think about like a lot where, you know, I remember one of your videos I was watching the other day, you know, you have your iconic line, like never kill yourself. And you're saying, you know, if you kill yourself, you miss the big show, which I thought was like so funny to end the video off with. But I guess like in some ways I want to hear from like the depths of your heart, like what, and I maybe kind of asked this in a weird way earlier, but like, what's your maybe like philosophical or religious or however you want to put it, like axiom by which, like, what makes you get out of bed in the morning in terms of like your greater view of life? Not even just so much in like politics or what have you, but just like, what's for you the bigger vision, Brogan?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I just think it's good to define yourself as somebody who will always chase some form of excellence, no matter the circumstances. And it's really important to ask yourself, and it's uncomfortable, but it's really important to ask yourself big questions about why you're doing what you do. Like when I was, you know, I wanted to be a painter. Originally was my sort of like career path. Like when I was young, I never imagined myself getting like a real job. I always thought like I'm going to be some form of artist. And then my early 20s, late teens, I was in art school doing like fine art, doing painting, and doing like studio work and having a studio practice. And it was very unfulfilling because I think at some point I realized that like painting is very vain. And this is me, right? This isn't like, I'm not trying to be like a universalist here. But I always found painting personally was very, very vain. Like I just wanted to, you know, make these like 2D images and sell them and make my living selling paintings. I'm like, you know, this is no different than the way the fine art market works is very, you know, almost analogous to like the crypto market or NFTs, right? Like you make this thing and then you hype it, and you hype it in the fine art world. It's galleries and it's getting the right buyer and getting good donors. And then when you get the right buyer, you know, you sell a painting from like $10,000, your body of work increases in value, right? You sell to somebody, they donate it, write it off as a tax refund. The tax refund, because they value it at $50,000. It's this whole like very, very sick financial game. And that's the way you make it in the art world most of the time, unless you want to like, eat nothing and be broke, which is totally fine. But it was just very unfulfilling. And as I realized, like, I started asking myself these very, very tough questions of like, why am I doing this? Like, am I going to be happy? Am I going to feel like my life on Earth was equivalent to something great if I just, put my all into painting? And the answer was no. And I think you just have, like, everyone has to ask themselves, right? Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? People can go 5 years of their life working towards something. And whether this is like you're in university, you get this good job, you end up at a high paying position at a good tech company, the job is stable, and you're like a project manager. And then you get there and you realize you're doing nothing. You realize you're getting paid $200K a year to answer like 3 emails a day and have this bullshit job, right? As an example. And if you never stop and ask yourself, like, what am I seeking out? You'll constantly make the wrong decision. Like, you really have to sit down with yourself and ask yourself, like, what is it that I want to do with my life? What goal am I reaching? And I think that is like ultimately what gets me out of bed. What like drives me is just like this chasing of making something great, like making something excellent. And when you fall short, it's just practice for the next one, When you do something great, it's practice for the next time. Everything is this practice, this like ever, it's like the Sisyphusian rock in the most beautiful way of like constantly just pushing up this hill over and over and over again and trying over and over again to make something excellent and make something excellent of yourself, and failing and trying again. And then you'll never do it, right? There's no crescendo, there's no peak where like everyone's like, oh, congratulations, you did it, right? You'll just die. You'll eventually grow old and die, but your entire life you were chasing this thing. You were chasing this sort of like this Christ-like concept of greatness, whatever that is for you. And I think that's the only way to find some sort of meaning in life, to find some sort of like contentment is chasing what this deified like biblical excellence that exists. Like, you can chase it; it's out there, it's above you, and you can reach up constantly and reach towards it and try to get it your whole life. And that's a life well lived.
It's constantly the pursuit to challenge yourself and make something great. Because if you're not moving in that way, you feel almost like, and I want your thoughts on this, you almost feel like you're rotting a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Right? Like that sort of like old school mentality of working, this garbage job until you're 65 and then retiring so you can sit on your couch or go to where do Canadians go to Cuba? This is like the classic every Canadian, because we can go and Cubans really like us and we have a lot of like deals with them on travel and shit. So like every Canadian vacations in Cuba like once a year on these resorts. And there's this like, Canadian boomer tradition of like, you retire and go to Cuba 3 times a year. You go to like a 4-star all-inclusive 3 times a year in Cuba. And like that, like I would blow my shit smooth off, man. If you were like, oh, hey man, here's $10 million, retire now, I'd be hanging from my ceiling in 3 months. Like, that's fucking miserable. You do rot. And I think this old school meme of thinking the point of life is to get to the point where you no longer have to do anything is spiritually vacant, right? It will lead you to a life of despair, a life of like a complete lack of meaning, a life of rotting.
100%. I mean, you look at, and you're the art historian, so maybe you need to correct me on this, but you look at someone like Salvador Dali or any of these great men in history that managed to continue to make art or literature or scientific discoveries up until the day they died. And yeah, maybe their life was busy, but it was full. There was a fullness to it that they had, that something like retiring and going to Cuba or going to Mexico and, just hanging out on a beach somewhere or sitting on your couch for the rest of your life, it doesn't lead to that kind of fulfillment. It doesn't lead to that fullness ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. And it's weird even like, when you get young people who, this whole idea of all these adult daycare jobs, right? Where you go get this job where you do nothing. And it's like half remote, half in the office. The office is like a salad bar and meditation pods and like a gym. And you bring that about in your life, again, this gets like back to the last man thing. This sort of like you are the last man. You're just this like endlessly, babied, entertained, like subdued, spiritually vacant shell of a person, just existing in the modern world with nothing. Right? It's horrible. So it's also, I mean, the alternative is tough. The alternative of, I mean, I think when it comes to the types of people that can achieve something great, I do like there's like a bit of like biological realism to it, where there's a disposition of somebody who achieves something great. I don't think it's something, and whatever I'm saying great. I don't mean like a world conqueror. I just mean somebody who like lives a very actualized life, whatever that may be. Right? If you're the best firefighter in your hometown, like that's an actualized life, right? So that takes that.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I interrupted.
Oh, sorry. There's that takes the right kind of person. Like you have to have. They call it tolerance for ambiguity, right? Like you like the ocean, like the big 5 personality traits.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you do need like there's a combination of traits that for better or for worse, are a bit immutable, that you have to have this sort of like artist's mindset, this artist's way of doing things, where you have this openness to ambiguity, where you have this high tolerance for risk and ambiguity and not knowing what the next year is going to look like. And, if you're not that person, that's totally fine. But it's like, because I always say these things to everybody where people talk about like what the meaning in their life is or how to find this meaning. And I always say the same thing, but like ultimately it's up to the person. And not that I fucking do. I'm fucking 27. I don't know anything. I just know what's worked for me so far. So,
well, and needless to say, something that. Oh, by the way, how are you doing on time?
Good. What did we got here? Yeah, good for like 15 more minutes.
Oh, heck yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
There's almost this universal experience I notice amongst our generation, and I think other generations have had their moments of angst, their moment where, they were sort of oh, by the way, a super chat came in. Super chats, anyone that sent them, I'll just read them at the end because I want to respect Brogan's time and be able to get in as much talking as possible. But, every generation, young men specifically have had, I think, an experience of angst or longing or meaning kind of in their lives. But I think what's kind of been, in no other terms, kind of messed up about our generation is, especially amongst young men, when we talk, there's this universal experience of almost at one point going through kind of suicidal ideation. Like this idea of not only am I like struggling for meaning like every other generation has, but there's this like general loss of meaning. There's this general like loss of sort of a purpose or a drive or a world that makes me feel like I belong. And it's been striking kind of across talking to just different guys of our generation, how that's like a pretty universal experience. Have you noticed that too with your friends, Brogan, like talking about like we all kind of went through that moment?
Yeah, I think there's, it's definitely, it's an intersection of two different problems, right? There's the general, like, what am I doing with myself that any self-reflecting young person's going to experience, on top of just the general meaning crisis, right? Like we live in a pretty affluent time, things are getting tougher, things are getting more expensive, but like there's never been more ways to entertain yourself. There's never been more ways to subdue yourself, right? And so we have, I think it's very normal, especially when you're 20, 21, 22, to go through this sort of this realization of like, oh, is this all it is? Like, this is it. Like you get into the real world and realize, oh, I just have to like chase enough money to live. And, there's no mountain, there's no great project. There's this great philosopher, Byung-Chul Han, who speaks about this a lot. And, when he talks about the meaning crisis, he has this great essay called The Scent of Time. And what the scent of time, this concept is, we used to, through most of human history, we had these big ceremonies that like, you know, basically ritualistically brought you into the next stage of life. Young men, whatever the society was, right? Young men would go through these rituals, would go through these initiation ceremonies into manhood. You buy property, or you take a job, or you have a child, you have this birthday. Like you have these rituals that everyone had that just marked time, right? And that's the scent of time. The scent of time is the knowing like where you're at on this timeline. Like, I am now a man, I do these things, and this is what it means to be a young man. This is what it means to be a grown man. This is what it means to be a father. This is what it means to be a community leader. And we don't have that anymore. Like we've totally eradicated all these initiation rituals, all these ceremonies from modern life. Now it's like, you know, you graduate high school, which is pretty universal. And then if you don't go to university, and, you know, say what you want about university, I don't want to get into, that's a whole other thing to crack open. If you don't go to university, yeah, you're sort of just like, you know, you're the same person from when you're 18 to when you're, you know, 30, 40, right? You don't feel like you're 30. You don't feel like you're older. You feel like an 18-year-old in a 28-year-old's body. And I think that just lends itself to this like meaning crisis, this slog of like, where does this go? What am I doing? Is this all there is? Like, it's just cradle to grave, like this nothingness, this mush. And you're entertained the whole time, and you have no sense of like of direction. And I don't know. There's this movement called metamodernism. A lot of people, even know much about this, a lot of people think it's really cringy, but it's like a lot of this kind of group of philosophers that are trying to like figure out how to bring that back in to modern life, like or postmodern life, I should say, how to bring back in like this sense of ceremony, this sense of meaning that we used to get from religion, we used to get from, you know, higher powers, whatever they were. And I don't know, man. It's tough. Like, I don't blame, you know, I think every young man, every young person goes through it. I don't blame anybody for asking those questions, because it's like, it's not given to you anymore, right?
It's not.
I know. Like, I was raised quite religious. I was raised Catholic, and I think a lot of people our age who look back to, a lot of people our age who come back to religion, not like they were always religious, like not like they were raised religious, but people who are agnostic or atheist their whole life. And then at some point in their mid-20s, they realize there's this meaning crisis. They realize that, okay, there's a lot of fundamental issues in society that we need to sort of rectify. We don't rectify like we were, you know, heading off a cliff. And the impulse to move back to religion, to a non-secular society, because obviously, right, like having a true sense of like God in your life, having a true sense of like religious duty in your life is very substantial to meaning, right? But I think it's like, I don't think you can be agnostic or raised, you know, just secular humanist agnostic your entire life and then choose to go back to religion because of the meaning crisis, because it feels like it will give you meaning. Like, if you don't believe that thing your entire life, you can't just pick the best part of it. So I think the impulse to go back to religion is also wrong. We need to find this middle ground of like, how do we bring back a true sense of duty and of journey in our lives in a postmodern sense, in a way that works in the 2020s.
Yeah, I think that there's kind of a way that some might view sort of like a return to religion or what have you as being sort of a sociological phenomenon, right? Where, you know, this is happening because there's a general like loss of meaning or what have you. That certainly plays like a role or a part. You know, just speaking from my experience, you know, I'm just this guy or whatever. But for me, I think it became a question of not so much what, you know, like what religion I thought was best for living how I wanted to live, or what I thought was, you know, kind of the most like way I wanted to fit everything. Because for a while I was like looking into Eastern religion and Buddhism and that kind of stuff, right? You know, I always call it white people Buddhism, because when you're like 13 or whatever, you read like one book on Buddhism, or you see like those you know, mindfulness beads or something, you think you're like really deep and spiritual, like you're the Beatles going to India. But I think for me it was a question of truth. I just wanted to know what was truthful. It wasn't so much, do I think this will make me the most happy? Because there's times in my life where I've even been going through it for the past 2 years where walking this religious journey, I'm not always happy. There's times of doubt, there's times of despair, there's times where I'm cast down on myself, but it's more this presence of I'm comforted knowing that I'm pursuing the truth. And I think in the internet, there are people that they turn to religion just for those sociological reasons. They're just trying to find some comfort, whether that would be religion or art or something like that. But I think that there are many people who they just kind of want to pursue truth at the end of the day. And I would say that anyone who winds up pursuing truth, even though I think we have a certain conception in the West, the postmodern West, of what Christianity is, I think they wind up finding Christianity again. And I hope I'm not coming off like I'm just hitting you with the stick and you're like, oh great, this guy's going on some sermon or whatever. But I guess this has just been kind of like my experience of life or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can give me your honest thoughts. You're not going to offend me.
No. No. I agree. I have a similar path. Like I would have called myself a Buddhist for a bit. I was really into Buddhism and meditation. I was really into Tibetan Buddhism. Tibetan Buddhism is really fascinating. And then I have people always ask me if I'm Christian. Because I wouldn't call myself a Christian because I have arrived back at Christianity from this like more bird's eye view spiritual sense. Like I'm not reading the Bible. I'm not living life as a Catholic. So I would never call myself a Catholic or a Christian. But like I've come to understand, right? Like I was talking before, this chasing of excellence. Like that's sort of what Christ is to me. Is this manifestation of like narrative perfection that exists beyond you, right? And the project of life is to try to be like Christ, and you'll fail. And the point is that you fail. The point is that you fall short. And the point also is that you keep trying again and again. You keep reaching up for this ideal that is out of reach all the time, but you spend your life reaching up for it. And that's my interpretation, and like in a sort of idiosyncratic sense. It's why I wouldn't call myself a Catholic or a Christian. I do just worry that people, will take it all back, hook, line, and sinker. And, I guess sort of like miss the forest for the trees. And instead of, looking at what, there's this great book by Aldous Huxley called The Perennial Philosophy, where he talks about this. Like, what is the commonality between like world religions? What is like the horizontal connection that like makes a religious structure, and why are religious structures good for societies? Religious structures are good for societies because they offer that ideal, right? Like Islam offers it, Judaism offers it, Christianity offers it, Buddhism offers it. It offers this ideal to chase, this ideal to try to align yourself with over and over and over again. And we can go back to that, but then I think with Catholicism to think the point of Catholicism wasn't to mistake the point of Catholicism for like the rules and the structure. I mean, structure is good, but like the literal rules, the literal structure, the literal like tenets of Christianity, the sort of like anti-human, anti-egalitarian aspect of Christianity. I know I believe Christianity is the most equal religion. Like it is the one that most recognizes human rights. But there is sort of like, to be against to be like, oh, I need meaning in my life, I'm going to turn back to Christianity. Now all of a sudden I'm homophobic, or I don't like gay people because of these new tenets I follow. I'm now, from a Christian conservative sense, against homosexuality, even though my entire life I wasn't. But now I have to be because I have to follow these rules now. Like that, the impulse to move back to Christianity scares me for that reason, is that we're going to not take the spiritual boon of it and just go right back to like an attempting of living life of like by the literal tenets of Catholicism, which I think is just, it's incongruent with, modern society. It's incongruent with with America and Canada and Western Europe in the 2020s. Like we've built this little world for ourselves. Let's figure out how to make this little world work for us, rather than retreat back to a world that might have had more meaning, but a world that was ultimately far less equal.
And something that you said, it's kind of funny. You were talking about, striving towards, almost like the figure of Christ, right? And the instant word, you've probably heard of this word before, the Greek word theosis. Have you heard that word brought up before? I instantly thought theosis when you were saying that, where it's this not becoming like God in the way that I literally become my own God or what have you, but almost that there's this light, to use kind of maybe, I guess maybe this would be surrealist terms, but like there's this light, there's this heat, there's this meaning, there's this thing beyond myself that I'm coming back to, but almost I'm like made for. There's such a profound beauty in it, and I think like something that can I be real with you for a moment, Brogan, if that's okay?
Yeah.
I know, dude, I felt, and I'll say it again, I know I texted you this, but that one day I was going off and I made that like mean tweet and you were in it and stuff like that. I was like, I look back on myself, I was like, dude, I was being a jerk. I was being a dick. Like, what was I thinking? And I was not being like Christ-like in that moment or whatever. And I want to go out on a limb and say, I'm sorry again for that, man. Like, I really do like value and love and respect what you do. And I think you're a really good guy. You're a great guy. You're somebody who's a real human being, and it's like you're living this experience of life that we're all living through. And I think what was kind of an impulse in there was like, I see someone like you who's a real human being pursuing truth, pursuing goodness and light and virtue. And it feels like, I don't know, like in a weird way, it's like he's so close. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I know oftentimes Christians maybe come off that way where it's like, oh, you don't know and I'm over here or whatever. No, not in that way at all. We're all making this journey. But like there's such this like great emphasis in your videos and like the stuff that you do on not only meaning, but like what is it all for? Like, why am I here? Right? I'm not here to just live as getting a job, making money, retiring on a beach somewhere, but there's this greater purpose. There's this greater thread that runs through everything that you do. And I think I see that, and I'm just like, dude, like I have no other way to say it, but you're loved. Like there's somebody who's loved you from eons in the cosmos, and I see that goodness so poured out in you and stuff like that. I'm like, he's so close. Like let me know if I'm off the reservation or whatever. I know I'm having like a weird moment, but it's something that I really value about you, dude. Like you're just a real human being, and I can tell that like truth is at the center of your heart. And I think in that moment, my moment of making a fool of myself, like it was almost like seeing you as my brother and just being like, I just want him to see like what he's always been searching for. I don't know if that makes any sense or whatever, but I'm getting deep and I'm being real. So maybe that's kind of messy emotions or what have you, but go ahead and share your thoughts or what have you.
No, you're fine, dude. I mean, I always, I troll on Twitter all the time. So I totally, I get it. I have, Brylan Hollyhand.
Yeah, dude. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I reply to like everything he posts with like really smarmy, like ironic posts. I can't help it sometimes. So I get it. Twitter pulls that out in people. Yeah, I mean, I feel that, right? I feel that. I feel like, I don't know. There's something like, there's just something worth communicating. There's something like worth trying to figure out.
Yeah.
In a real sense, in a sense that sort of like underpins everything we all do. And to not try once, right? To not try to poke at it, right? This kind of like raw bleeding heart of humanity, to not try to like rip it open and poke at it a little bit. It's just it sucks, because it's there and it has to be addressed.
100%.
Right? It's also like, I want to be polemic sometimes, and I am polemic, and especially on the politics side. Like I have, I'd love to be the guy who could like go onto a debate and just be like, "Fuck you," like rip people to shreds. But I'm just not that. I'm not that guy at all. I don't have that dog in me to just like to be that polemic, to be that objective in the moment. So I don't know. It's hard, right? It's hard. I don't think it's kind of dark when you see it too. When you see people debate politics and when you see people debate in general, right? And like the interactions people have online, or it's just so bleak. It's so bleak to like to take another human and just other them as somebody who like is fundamentally flawed, to other them as somebody who is like fundamentally stand, who's fundamentally broken, who like is irredeemable, right? I think is incredibly bleak.
And it's not right. And it does this thing where we no longer see each other's faces in a very real way. And I don't mean literally like we don't see each other's faces. Like at the bottom of it, it's like you're dehumanizing a person, and that person is a collection or a totality of so many memories and experiences and personality. And it's sad. There's a tragedy to it.
Yeah. No, 100%. 100%. I mean, it's funny sometimes. That's the worst part, but it is tragic.
Well, and how are you on time, brother?
I gotta wrap up. I have my editors coming in like 5 minutes. I gotta go film some stuff. So
that's totally fine. If you want, go ahead and tell us where we can find you and stuff like that. I want the people to know listening. I know I have a very small audience, but even if it leads to 1,000 more subscribers or something, we want to go follow you everywhere.
I'm Art Chad on everything. On like YouTube is my main platform. Substack, I've been on Substack more recently. Twitter, Instagram, just like if you look at Art Chad on any platform, I'll come up.
Dude, absolutely. Well, and it's criminal because like you're well followed on YouTube, but I was like looking at your X and your Instagram. It's like we got to get those numbers up for you, man, because you're making great stuff.
Yeah, I'm not the best on X. I have a few, like I'll get a big viral thing. X is weird, man. I'll get a big viral thing like every week. I'll have a big post that gets like 2,000 likes, and then it's just like nothing again. So I don't know. I don't do short form either. I think if I did short form stuff, I would be really big everywhere else. But no, just YouTube.
No,
which
that's
I'm
okay.
fine with. That's the only one I care about. So.
Yeah, well, you have a good channel, man, and I want everyone to check out your stuff. You're doing great work and stuff like that, and I really appreciated having you on. I hope you had a good time and stuff like that, too. I know it's always a little awkward meeting new people and stuff like that, but, dude, this was an invaluable conversation, honestly, to me.
Yeah, no, same. It's been it's been fun. This has been real. Sorry, just a second there.
Oh, dude, you're totally fine.
It's been a good good conversation. Good conversation.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to we should talk again. If I used to stream like 3 times a week and then I stopped, but been thinking recently I'm gonna start streaming again and set up somewhere else. So when I start streaming again, we should definitely talk again.
Dude, I'd be honored. And it goes without saying, I know you come down to the States a lot. If you're ever in Colorado, you always got a home here, man.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I've never been down to Colorado, so
heck yeah, you gotta come visit.
Yeah, man. Dope. Okay, I gotta let you go. I gotta go let my editor in.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you later, okay?
See you, man.
Let's go. Okay, let's go. Dude, that was so awesome. Sorry, I got to fix my camera here. I'm going to the next chat. Oh, hold on. Activate. Okay, there we go. Heck yeah. Here we go, man. Man, that was a great discussion, guys. And I know I got real there, and I think a lot of times when that happens, I know the perception. Sometimes when you're talking to someone who, maybe they're not actively involved in their, and I say this with no judgment. I just mean like, maybe they're not actively pursuing the faith or what have you. It can almost come off like how those street preachers like go to someone and they're like talking about our Lord and stuff like that, and it seems like it almost seems like you're giving a sermon in a way where you're talking at that person, but you're not talking to them. But I mean this in a really true way. I do love that dude. I really do. He's somebody who I can tell like does care about. You can't hear me, Padua? Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, it seems like it's working. I don't know why the audio's not. Hold on. We can hear you fine. Okay. Let me just... Audio is fine on your end. Okay, that's fine. That seems all right. I really do love and care about Art Chad. Because I want to love and care about everybody. And I'm not good at that. I've been open with and honest with you guys. Like, I'm horrible at that. I can be rude. I can be, visceral or what have you, and forget about the value of love. And, when I watch his videos, like the thing that I always think of when I like come to kind of an end of one of the episodes or what have you is just like, this dude gets it. He gets so much of like the human condition. He gets so much of the human condition, what we're going through, what we're dealing with, what's happening. And you don't see that with a lot of people. You really don't see that with a lot of people. A lot of people, it's kind of like, maybe they're talking about a philosophical topic or what have you because, they're paid to do it, or it just seems like it's interesting, but it's about like kind of a more emotional allegiance, which, from the human perspective, it's like, even if it's an emotional allegiance, you can probably understand that, there's a reason why they feel that way, right? Maybe they feel that way because it was the way they were raised, or it was kind of the context that they were coming from or what have you. And I see so many people who get so much right. They get so much right, and they're really like, it's really the fourth quarter. It's really like at the end of the line. They're right there. And I'm looking at that person and I'm like, I just want them to cross the eschaton. Not because I'm just trying to, pontificate towards them. Not because I'm just trying to say, believe my worldview because it's my worldview or what have you, or it's it's something that I just want to force upon you, like ideological imperialism. But because I was where you were. I was where you were. I was that guy who was suffering and trying to figure it all out. I really was, man. I mean, I remember when I was 16 or 15, I would go through so many of these, philosophical tomes, right? You'd go to like Barnes and Noble, or you'd go to Tattered Cover or any of these other bookstores, and I would just digest them. And I would read about like different worldviews and different philosophies, different underpinnings of reality, and wonder to myself, why are we here? Why are we here? Because, Brogan said something during the stream that it actually meant a lot to me, because it was something that I had felt, right? Like this idea of, you work your entire life, you spend your entire life making money so that you can retire on a beach somewhere. And if that's your life, I would want to kill myself too. I wouldn't want to live in that anymore. And I know that because that's what I felt. I've talked a lot about that philosophical and religious journey that I had when I was 16. And that was the main thing that I struggled with, was looking at life, seeing graduating high school. And it's like, what, to go to university, to, go to college, go do that thing, go through all the motions of what I was told I was supposed to do so I could get the job, the white picket fence, retire, and then wait to die. That was a long time, man. And it was hard. It was the hardest time in my entire life. I wouldn't wish that kind of suffering on my worst enemy. I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. That kind of suffering, that kind of internal torment was torturous. I mean, the thought that you're this human being who has all these deep emotions and these deep feelings, and there's this almost like reflection of the cosmos in even as something as simple as your fingerprint, a skin cell, one of the color in your eye. And you're this complex person. You're this person who is made up of intention and almost in some ways a reality onto itself, or a reflection of a greater reality. And you're told at a young age, listen, dude, you're going to go to college, maybe meet a girl there, have plenty of, hedonistic partying or what have you. You're going to get married. You're going to get the white picket fence, maybe have a couple kids, work every single day for 30 years, same place, same job, same conversation around the water cooler. Hey, Tim, it's a Monday. Dude, I remember at my first real job, everyone there was super nice, and everyone, salt of the earth people. I've zero bad things to say about any of them. They were great people. But the conversation when a Monday would hit or a Friday would hit was always the same. And it wasn't their fault. It's the nature of the office environment, right? Hey, it's Monday, right? Rolls eyes, makes coffee. Friday, thank goodness it's Friday. Repeating that cycle over and over and over and over and over and over again. And there's not a comfort in the sameness, but there's a monotony to it. There's a reduction in it. It's not like you're living simply, but living a good, genuine, simple life. That's not bad. Many of our ancestors were farmers, and maybe they didn't leave 10 miles outside of the town that they grew up in, or what have you. But there was an intentionality and an authenticity to their lives that we don't feel like we have in these cold, sanitized concrete buildings that we're expected to work the same job for 30 years so that we can retire and just wait to die. I remember thinking to myself during that time in my life of philosophical introspection and of philosophical pursuit. Is this all that life is? Waiting till I'm 60, waiting till I'm 65 or I'm 70 to really live life, only for it to be pulled away at the last moment. That I would retire at 55 and maybe live a good 15 years where I could actually go do stuff before my body and my heart and my brain would start to fail me, and I would be rotting in that hospital bed waiting for the final curtain to close. That was horrible. That really, really, really was horrible. There was something so dark and so wicked about all of that. And I just felt completely distraught. You know, we talked about how every young man goes through, in the modern world at least, I don't think it's always been this way. I think this is completely a Gen Z phenomenon of a moment of suicidal ideation, a moment of, I can make the show stop. I can change the channel, I can turn off the TV, I can make it all stop because I don't want to continue this anymore. We all go through that. And it was the hand of God that just pulled me out of that. You know, I was searching for truth and meaning, but meaning found me. And meaning was not like a job. It was not like a purpose, like being given a task, right? Where maybe you get very into making music or art or literature, you know, writing or, you know, painting, photography, any of those things. It wasn't a task. It wasn't a hobby. It wasn't a career path or a lifestyle change. It was a totality. It was a being. It was an essence. It was something. It was something completely different and almost indescribable. And I remember that I just couldn't help but feeling like this was everything I could have ever wanted, and I was looking for my entire life. You know, when I was sitting down and I was reading over philosophy, I was reading over, you know, why are we here? Why are we living? Why are we going through all of this? Right? Why do we do all of this? What's the underpinning, the undercurrent? It's like so many of us surround our lives with a lot of noise because we're trying to drown out the silence. Because the silence bothers us. The silence is almost like our conscience poking us and saying, you don't know why you're here. You don't know why you're dealing with everything that you're dealing with or going through everything you're going through. And just feeling that kind of existential dread is almost unbearable. And here it's like I see a hand that dips down and touches my heart, and it pulls me out of the depth. It pulls me out of everything that I'm going through. And not only furnishes for me like a meaning or a purpose, but it's a person. It's a person. He is a person. And he's a person who loves me, who's always known me, who has always been with me, even when I denied him, even when I doubted him, even when I made fun of him, even when everything seemingly was coming to a head and my entire world was collapsing, and the underpinning and current of everything really didn't seem to be real or truthful. It was a person who saved me. And, you know, with Art Chad, with Brogan, I see a lot in his videos that introspection. I see a lot in his videos that understanding that there's a loss or sort of a loss of an underpinning of everything. That's kind of the state we all find ourselves in. And it's almost like we're walking around in the dark trying to hold on to anything that makes sense. Maybe it's I've seen his sudden rise in popularity, right? Nietzsche. Beyond good and evil, and the idea that you become kind of the overman. You move beyond conventional morality, the kind of genealogy of morality, to be able to move into this greater, more powerful life. Or maybe you get wrapped up in politics, right? Maybe you get wrapped up in political ideologies and political identities, niche internet subcultures, whatever gives you a sense of belonging and meaning. But I think at the bottom of all of that, and I think it at sort of the wave of all of that is just generally a silence. And it feels like there's a loss. And we get wrapped up in our pet projects, and we get wrapped up in our ideologies, or we get wrapped up in all those things that we're kind of going through or dealing with. And we just still feel like we don't have any meaning. That's like all that noise that we filled our lives with was sound and fury signifying nothing. And I think when I was on stream, I was wanting to have that real moment. Again, I didn't want to come off to him like I was just giving him a sermon and, trying to tell him that, well, here's what you should do and that sort of thing. But more so being like, I've seen what you've seen, and I've walked the same road that you've walked, and we didn't grow up on the same street. We didn't, I didn't grow up in Canada, right? I didn't grow up in Canada and have the same experiences and have the same experience of life and reality. But I do know something, and it's that we've both walked this walk in the philosophical desert. And that's what unites us. And that the only thing behind that silence is a deeper penetrating love, a deeper meaningful love that's always been there. That ironically, the silence is kind of in some ways yet another layer of noise. That there was always someone holding you up even when you felt like the world was crashing down. That there was something that was always there for you even when you felt like you didn't have him there. It felt like you turned your back on him. Even when you tried to fill your life with other things, even when you tried to fill your life with other meanings and ideas and philosophies, there was always him. It's Jesus Christ. I think one of the best philosophers of the modern world is Alistair McIntyre, who I've really been thinking about a lot recently. He was this philosopher who had repopularized a long forgotten truth about teleology, the end of everything. Because everything culminates and finalizes in an end. And even this modernity that we're dealing with will come to an end, and there will be something else, and there will be another stage of life, and newer challenges and newer and scarier things much bigger than us, and all of our philosophy and our writings and our thinking and our technology and all those things will fail to save us from it. It'll be much bigger than we are. It already is. Look at the Epstein stuff. I really do pray with all my heart that the people that are guilty and responsible are prosecuted and they are held accountable for their actions. But I'm also going to be real. I think that we live in a scary political construct much larger than ourselves. And for any amount of materialism that we believe in, or maybe sort of vague spiritual sentiment, it all comes crashing down when the harsh reality of that construct really becomes apparent to us. That as much as I want it to happen, these people will likely not be tried. They will shift around, they'll morph, they'll scurry back into their little hovel. And in that worldview, there's a pervading sense that justice has not been served. And in that way, it's like we kind of like we scream, we cry out in the void, like, where is justice for this? We touched on it during the stream. It's so intuitively evil that most of humanity recognizes how evil it is. It just feels wrong on the deepest part of ourselves. Why do we have that sense of justice? If this life is all that we have, and maybe vague spiritualism is all that we have, who's to say that this is not just like another process, like a tree falling in the forest, or a volcano erupting, or glacier splitting, right? That it's just the way of the world. That Epstein and all sort of his machinations and evils and tragedies are just yet another movement of nature. And that for all of our feelings of a loss of justice aren't just in vain. We know that's not true. And you don't need to be a philosopher to know that that's not the case. You don't need to be somebody who's well-read to know what's wrong versus what's right, and have a pervading sense of justice well up in your heart. It's because God fashioned that heart. God fashioned your heart, man. He made your heart. He formed it. Because he formed your heart, you know when you see someone being violated or wronged in that way that it is wrong, that it is suffering, that it is something that is so deeply offensive to the very core of your being. Because if you are but an echo of eternity, eternity cries out, God himself cries out when he sees one of his children victimized, and you're but an echo of that. You're a reverberation of the divine justice that God sees when one of his little ones is hurt. And so that's why you look at something like Epstein and you know that it's not just a process in nature. It's not just a tree falling in the forest or a glacier splitting. That is a real injustice that cries out to heaven for vengeance. And at some point in your life, the materialism, the vain philosophies we might choose, or the vaguely spiritual worldviews we might have, aren't going to be enough to deal with the harsh injustice of life, the harsh cruelty of life. the suffering of life. That, that's an underpinning of so many world religions, is this idea of how do we engage with suffering and death. And they all have their answers. But suffering in of itself culminated and terminated and was taken upon in a single moment, a single axiom of not only of all of human history, but all of world history and all of time and space and eternity. It was the cross. And it was Christ suffering on the cross for our sake. And that every tear and every heartbreak and every wound and every lash culminated in this finality, culminated in this single moment where he took upon all of that and suffered for all of it to make it right. That in our hearts and in every sort of reverberation of our life, we felt that there was this injustice, one that we had been a part of. One that we had been a part of. In the way that you hate and you slander another person, in the way that you speak ill of another person, the way that you don't love your neighbor, that we've been a part of that injustice too. And rather than being destroyed and us being terminated for being both victim and criminal in that divine injustice, God became incarnate to suffer for our sake, to terminate in his sacrifice all of that suffering. That suffering no longer had no meaning and was this cruel joke of life, but that it was all taken in the very depths of his being, internalized, taken upon himself just so that we could be free. And that person is Jesus Christ. I know I sound like a broken record saying this. I know many might say, well, how does that capture the interconnectedness and complexities of life? It seems like just such an empty answer. Christ, right? The vague ramblings of a parish priest trying to give his parishioners a hope for hereafter to make sense of their suffering. The sort of coping mechanism that people engage in to deal with an otherwise harsh world that is unforgiving and cruel. But I'm here to tell you that unlike every other thing on the face of the earth, where a man says a philosophy or an idea and they say, I possess the truth. I hold the truth in my clutches. This other of the truth, I hold and I possess and I'm giving to you. There's only one person who says, I am the way and the truth and the life. And that every culmination and everything that you've been feeling, everything that you have striven for, all of your sighs and groans of death and suffering, and your joys and your hopes and desires are fulfilled in me, are healed in me, are terminated in me, and accomplished and finalized and given meaning. And that you are given new life in me because you were made for me. And I want you to be with me in eternity forever. The world is scary and reality is scary. And I'm not going to lie with you guys. I've had kind of a detachment from politics for a relatively long time. I speak on it a lot. I touch on it a lot. But there was some point in my youth where I realized that in some ways it felt like it was futile for me to constantly be keeping up with every news story and keeping up with every headline and keeping up with every alliance that someone forged and sort of the movement of the sands of time. That I would try to like fill my hands with the sands of time only for it to slip through my fingers. Something I couldn't grasp or collect. And it led to me kind of taking this step out from politics and saying, I want to trust the people who know what they're talking about. Nick's the only guy I trust to give an accurate take on everything. Let him do the heavy lifting. He's got this. But what it allowed me to do when I stepped back is realize that ultimately, as much as we might try to keep up with every single news story and try to keep up with every single happening and utterance and occurrence, there's a certain futility to it that we just can never fully capture. And that the only thing that makes sense of all this cruelty and all this violence and all of this sort of treachery and injustice is Him, is God. That the world may pass away and the things in it, but He is still there. That He is an anchor and a rock in an otherwise shifting world that feels confusing and violent and scary. You know, I didn't merely do it to cope. If I felt like I was coping, I would never believe in something that I felt was just giving me an easy out. I could have done that with Buddhism. I could have, done that with deism. I could have done that with a million other philosophies and religions. I could have thought myself the overman from Nietzsche's philosophy. I could have constructed a worldview that would have given me that easy out. But the underpinning and the undercurrent of my life, the constant reverberation, I just couldn't get it out of my heart, and I knew it was God. And I knew it was Jesus Christ. So I say all that, that long monologue to say that I, in no condescending way, in no way saying, hey, I have it all figured out and I'm better than you and I know what's the truth and that sort of thing. Nobody owns the truth. But the truth is a person, and that person is Jesus Christ, and we hope that we may be modeled in His image, and that we may be with Him and about Him and for Him. And so in that way, I say from the bottom of my heart, I truly do desire that Art Chad knows just how much Christ loves him. Knows just how much that Jesus has always been after his heart. That no matter what he goes through in this life, he knows he can always rely on Him. And that He will never steer him wrong or let him down. But He is the solid rock on which his life can be built. Because I tell you what, every single person deserves to be with Christ. There's not a single person that shouldn't be with Him. And that dude I just talked to is way too real and kind and good of a man to not know who Jesus Christ is. And so I truly, from the bottom of my heart, desire that he may know and love Christ, because Christ has known and loved him. And so that's what I want for him, man, And that's what I want for everybody. When I see a truth teller, when I see a truth seeker, it's like, I know some people again might see it as like autistic or preachy or what have you, but it's just it's almost feeling like Saint John the Baptist just being covered in animal skins. And yeah, in not that I'm not covered in animal skins, but yeah, maybe you don't have the look to you or the appearance of this suave, charismatic figure or prophet or what have you, but you're crying out in the wilderness, there's someone greater that is coming, and I'm not even worthy to unbuckle his sandal. But I want every single person to be baptized in his name and know and love him because he is known and loved them. That's how it feels. So, I understand, the way that people might perceive it. I understand the way that people, might take it or what have you. I was there. I was there. And I remember how I took when people would talk about our Lord and stuff like that. But all I want to say is that he is too good a dude to not be with Christ and to know Christ's love. And I truly, genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, want that for him. So, oh man, dude, this has been awesome. This has been super good. Let me see here. I know we have some super chats that I need to read. Some really good super chats. So Mo Gummy. Oh, I hit the reaction button. Let's see here. Did that work? No? Dang, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the notification for it. That's all right. But Mo Gummy sent $5. Focus on facts in quotation marks, but how can you grift off the normies so I can get mega rich and quit my Domino's pizza delivery job? Yeah, that's so real, dude. Yeah, Ian Carroll and all those guys. Alexei Parasov sent $250. Pine X Art Chad video collab now. So true, King. So true. Let me see if we can get that event going. No? Okay, well, that's all right. $250. Thank you, Alexi. I really appreciate it. And then Alexi sent $5 more. $250 and no reaction. I'm so cooked. No, sorry about that, brother. We were just in the middle of a conversation, and it was tough to kind of disrupt that momentum. So I didn't really want to throw it off. Let's see here. GOG community leader sent $2. Yo, Pinestep and Art Chad, what do you guys think of Clavicular getting brutally frame mogged by that ASU frat guy? My priest brought it up at mass last Sunday during his homily. Dude, okay, GOG, that's gotta be a joke. I'm thinking that's a joke. Are you trolling me right now? You trolling me, dude? I think that's got to be a joke. I can't believe Clav got frame mogged, bro. That's crazy. By the ASU frat guy. That was just insane that he got frame mogged at that moment. It is kind of low key crazy how he looks maxed his way out of prison. That's incredible. That's really funny, actually. So I worry about that guy though. I mean, with Clav, and I'm not doing the talking down thing, but he is a really very, very much cares about his physical appearance and stuff like that, which is very good. Well, to an extent, until it gets into maybe vanity or what have you. But I do worry about him because sometimes when you're at the epicenter of that kind of attention, people kind of pick apart your life and make you into this kind of caricature, this person dancing on a stage for our amusement. And I don't know. I just hope that, he has people in his life who just love him for who he is and not what he can give them, but just love him for who he is. You know what I mean? I really worry about that. I mean, that's why I kind of hate the internet, man, because there is a lot of, it tends to kind of collapse our view of people and kind of reduce them to sound bites and atomize them. And it just really kind of has a way of almost us treating human beings like they're players on a stage dancing for our amusement rather than human beings with thoughts and feelings and emotions and a reflection of the image of God in their soul. And I honestly, for that reason, have become kind of disillusioned with the internet, especially after the whole Sarah and Elijah thing. That I'll speak briefly on that. I haven't really spoken on that. that really affected me. I'm not gonna lie. Because I mean, I'll be blunt. I knew Elijah was kind of degen before that. That element didn't really affect me. I mean, Elijah. It's like I said during the Beardson stream, and I wasn't trying to spill the tea or whatever, but it's like we literally were at the cigar lounge, and he's like bragging about like having sex with like all these different women. And I didn't necessarily think that he was cheating on his wife at the time or whatever. I wasn't trying to think like evil thoughts of him, but just like, you know, the way he was like talking about like, you know, sleeping around with all these different women in different countries and stuff like that, getting really drunk and like arguing with Nick. I just was like, okay, I'm like, you know, I didn't want to be ungrateful because he had helped me, right, with everything that had gone down that day. I will never look a gift horse in the mouth, and I'm still thankful for everything he did for me in that moment. I don't want to ever be ungrateful for that, but I don't know. You know, when his stuff came out, it was sadly kind of expected in a certain way. I kind of knew it. It was kind of an open secret, but you know, I'm just being real with you guys for a moment here, but you know, because I know we say no e-girls ever and stuff like that. And I don't want people to be like, simp, what are you saying? Oh, dude, simp, you know, you totally bought the lie or whatever, you know, you bought the farm. But I considered Sarah my friend. I really did. And I say that as someone who I still very much care about her. I don't hate her. I don't hate her by any means, but of course I don't. That's a horrible thing to feel towards someone, but I feel very hurt, I think, by what she did because I thought very highly of her at the time. You know, I met her. We hung out those days when I went out to LA and stuff like that in California. I mean, we you know, all of us, right? Her, you know, she, her, you know, her husband, all of us, you know, Kai, we spent a lot of time together, you know, and had a lot of fun. And it honestly was at a time in my life where I was not doing very well. And look, you can see the video. I was a big guy, right? But I was that way because it was like, I was very depressed. I was not hanging out with a lot of people back home. And I felt like my life was kind of like stagnating in some ways. It's like, you know, I had a job and stuff like that. And, you know, work was fine. I was very grateful for that. But like in terms of like social life and what I wanted the next 10 years of my life to look like, I didn't know like where to go. And so I very much was doing things that were like very self-destructive and not taking very good care of myself. And so, you know, when I went out to California and hung out with everybody, it really did mean the world to me. It felt like I was like living in my 20s for the first time. And I didn't really feel like I was living in my 20s when I was living life at that time back home. You know, I wasn't hanging out with people. I wasn't getting out as much as I should. I kind of almost retreated more to the internet because it felt like it gave me the socialization that I otherwise didn't have. And so because of that, you know, I had remained skeptical of her, you know, no e-girls ever, right? Our adage. But I thought that after spending that amount of time, I thought to myself, maybe I was wrong. You know, made a real fool out of me. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I jumped the gun and I judged way too fast, way too harsh or what have you. And to just see how it all went down really just disappointed me. I'm mad in the sense of the injustice of cheating, right? That is a very serious thing. But if anything, I would say that I'm more just disappointed and heartbroken as a friend. Because her husband is a good friend of mine, actually. I love him a lot. He's a great dude. Did not like seeing how the internet was treating him. It really pissed me off. And that's why I put out that tweet where I said, I hate how so many people call themselves Christian and they just take moments like these and they just fucking relish in them. Like pigs in a trough. Just roll around in the mud and relish in the moment. And what you don't realize is that through all that internet drama or whatever, someone is having their life deeply affected. Their entire world is collapsing. And for us to call ourselves Christians, something I'm guilty of myself, to call ourselves Christian and just relish in someone's suffering like that, that is Antichrist. That's not of God. From that moment on, I know I'm not going to be perfect at it, and I'm probably still going to have my moments or what have you, but I really do want to swear off drama. Participating in that whole side of things. It is gross. And I've been a part of it. You know, I've been the person who has relished in seeing someone's downfall or this drama going down or that drama going down. But to see it hit so close to home, to someone that I knew, or at least I thought I knew and you know, trusted and thought very highly of, it really hurt. And it allowed me to kind of get, I think, a little bit more of a glimpse into what having that kind of attitude towards relishing and suffering leads to. And so I don't want to do drama stuff anymore. I really think that is Wayne Gaff, do you think Hitler Pinestaff has a chance of, I'm not going to say that word, rapping Ella Malding? Dude, you're asking the wrong guy, bro. Thank you for the 5. I appreciate it. You're asking the wrong guy. That's something else. Faith Merrill, something censored. That's probably really bad. Oh, and then I've got these 2 other super chats I need to read. I just felt let down and hurt more than anything else. And so I'm going to be blunt. I really don't trust any e-girl now. I did, and that was a very big disappointment. If a girl's on the internet, I'm going to be real, be friendly to her. Don't have any reason to be mean. I'm going to pray for her. I'm going to wish the best for her, but no, we're not doing, I'm not having that happen again. It hurt too much the first time, and I let my guard down, and I should have never done that. And Sarah, I do wish the best. I want her to live a good Catholic life. I'm not saying this like I wish the worst for her. I really don't. But I let my guard down enough, and this happened. And so I'm not playing around anymore. Nick is right. No e-girls ever. It's been an old adage, and it's been proven. It's been proven true time and time again. So, I don't know, man. But, I'll pray for her, and I ask that you pray for her too, and you pray for everybody involved. I'm just very saddened by the whole ordeal. Noodlebull asks about the weird super chat sending. Yeah, it's someone trying to troll. Clearly, I didn't send any of those super chats. It's just someone trolling. So, that's about it. That's all that you can say about it. It's just someone trolling or whatever. But let's see. Mo Gummy said $5. I know Art Chad made that joke, but it does bring me memories of my 5th grade teacher who had a grandpa that committed suicide because he felt there was nothing to life since he's old. As I'm older, I see this kind of despair as a caregiver. That's very sad, brother. Yeah, it's tough. The human, dealing with the human condition and trying to live life is tough. It's very heartbreaking at times. Bluish sweatshirt sent $5, referring back to when you were talking about normalcy. We literally don't have any social homogeneity anymore. We are no longer majority white, and no longer majority Christian. We had true normalcy when Obama was against homosexual marriage. Dude, literally so true, actually. That is literally so true. When that kind of Christian base, as sort of weak as it was because it was Protestant form, but when that Christian base eroded, the entire floodgates went away. And now, until everyone believes in until really everyone believes in Christ again, we're never going to get that. We're never going to get that back. And that's why we need to try and convert people. Until we convert people, we're never going to get that normalcy back. It's not going to come from philosophy or some unifying ideology. It's only going to come from Christ and following him to the ends of the earth. Mo Gummy sent $5, not even defending what Sarah and Elijah did, but some people acting like Milo is a hero kind of bugs me, not gonna lie. Like, he admitted his intentions with leaking that info. Screenshot text to Sarah. Milo is a lying cocksucker. Fuck that guy. I struggle to say that I don't hate him. He is a lying, evil piece of shit. And I really do hope that one day he wakes up and he realizes that everything that he is doing and he has done is going to culminate in a hell of a time at judgment. That guy is a piece of fucking shit, man. There are people that I don't like, but I still think are generally good people. That guy is a rotten-hearted, evil cocksucker. Fuck Milo. He's just an evil piece of shit. I still remember, I tried to be nice to him when he was cool with AF or whatever. He was never a fan of me. And he was never a fan of me because my thing had always been defending the Pope, defending the Second Vatican Council, defending the church. And, he called it, it was Catholic neoconism. It was, oh, darling, it was trying to gaslight people into doing this and doing that. And you know what, man? I'm not a perfect person. I'm really not. I've done some fucked up stuff in my life, and I have to put on my pants one leg at a time like everybody else. I'm not going to pretend like I'm out here being some good Catholic or what have you. I really do struggle to live out our faith. I will be completely transparent. But when I wear this cross, when I have that rosary in my pocket, I do actually believe. I am a rotten person, and I'm not a good Catholic, but I do believe, and I am a Catholic. I'm not a good one, I'm not a great one, but I do believe. I don't think that piece of shit, when he puts on a rosary and dances around and one moment is trying to collapse someone's life and the next trying to say, oh, but pray for them. I don't think that you believe. I don't think that you are a Christian. I think you are an opportunist who will find anything that is culturally trending or anything that gives you seemingly the moral high ground to piety signal and moral fag while you're tearing apart someone's life. Because if you believed, Milo, you would not be the sycophantic piece of shit that you are. So I want that disgusting lying piece of shit to take off that rosary if he's not going to live out what it means. I'm not criticizing him for being a bad person. I'm criticizing him for being a sycophantic liar that dresses up in Catholic piety so he can wear it as some suit jacket while he goes and ruins other people's life and does the work of the Antichrist. Evil motherfucker. Can't fucking stand that guy. To your point, where is the line when calling out evil? Our saints didn't mince words. It just can't be contingent on an intention to correct. The line of calling out evil is first with intent. Are you trying to just call out evil to kind of for vainglory, right? Like to appear as such a good person? And are you offended for your sake, or are you offended for the things of God? Because if you're offended for the things of God, there's really no line. If you're offended for God's sake, you need to do everything to fight for God. If you're offended for your sake, it means that probably you're offended over something that doesn't offend piety. And if that's the case, then what you're maybe going after isn't evil. But generally in this case, if we're talking about the nature of evil, it does go against God. And so in that way, you have to address it proportionally to what it is. If someone's doing something bad in their personal life, don't make an embarrassment of them in front of everybody else, of course, right? Take them aside and in kindness and charity, communicate to them that they're not living the way that Christ wants them to live. But when someone attacks the innocent and attacks the little ones, right? The little ones of Christ, the innocent, and wages war against him, they need to be publicly derided. They need to be publicly called out, because at that point, it is offending God. It's not just offending you. And it's not just something that they are privately dealing with in their lives, but they are actually inflicting damage and evil on other people. Pinestep, you should react to Future Shock. I don't know. Who's Future Shock? That's a good question. Future Shock. Oh, and did I read all the super chats? Yeah. Okay, we did. We did. Future Shock. I'll have to check that out later. Let's see here. Bro, there's some black guy smoking crack in this gas station on that. That's crazy, dude. Vincent, where are you? That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. Doom pill sap. No, Chuddy, no doom pills, bro. We're always white pilled. At the end of the day, at the end of it all, we're white pilled. We're looking to the sunrise and the sunset. I strongly dislike Milo. Yeah, that's putting it lightly. Yeah, he loves drama, of course. Absolutely. Yeah, he very much does. It's a movie from 1972. Future Shock. Is it gonna be like one of those weird 70s movies? I don't know. Oh, yo, $2. Roman America. Hey, Pinestep, I just got off another live stream. What subjects have you covered so far? We did the collab with Art Chad, so it was really, really, really fun. And I was just going kind of over the after state of it. So, let's see here. Oh, how do you send a super chat? Here, I'll post the link in chat. It's just power chat. I appreciate that, brother. That means a lot to me. But you don't have to send one if you don't want to. I mean, I'm always grateful, but like I always say to you guys, don't feel like you have to. I'm always thankful for it, but we don't do this for money. We do this because it's the truth, right? We do this because I love doing this, and it brings me a lot of joy. Dude, I'm in Villa Rica. I don't know where that is. That's crazy, dude. No e-girls or no e-gays. Yeah, especially no e-gays. I feel honestly stronger about the e-gays than even the e-girls. Because I don't trust anyone who's not anti-abortion or homophobic, honestly. Like, I've said this before, but it's like, if you're not homophobic and you're not anti-abortion, I don't really trust you. I think that there is something so degenerative in your worldview that you're permitting two sins that literally cry out to heaven for vengeance, and it's disgusting. Now, I will caveat that with saying, I think that there's people who don't know better and don't know the truth about that, and those people I look more at, they just don't know the full truth. But if you claim to be right-wing and you're any of those things, I immediately will write you off, and I want nothing to do with you. Let's see here. Feel like I need to correct Pinestep. I'm a female at some point. Mo Gummy's a female? What? No, dude, I modded you. No. It's so over. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate you. Let's see here. Pinesap, you should watch this live streamed. You might like him. I think his name is Nick Fuentes or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I think I would like that. I think I would like that that content creator. You said his name was Nick Fuentes. I think I would like watching that guy. Let's see here. I want to send a super chat, but my job hasn't paid me in a month. Eric, don't send a super chat, man. Hold on to that. Like I said, I do appreciate when you guys have sent me a lot of money with the Give Send Go and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. And that would be more than enough for an entire lifetime. But don't feel like you have to. I know that's easy to say when literally a super chat's coming in. It's like, oh, don't feel like you have to. And then it's like, you know, there's all these super chats being sent in. But like, even if all this made $0, I would still do it, man. I love just doing this to do this. You know, it is why I want to try to give back in the future and stuff like that. And I don't know how that looks yet. Maybe it's just more donation to charity or volunteering or what have you. But, you know, I really do just love and appreciate you guys for just even watching. That's what means a lot to me. So super chats, of course, I appreciate, but don't feel like you have to, man. I just love you guys, and I would be nothing without you. You know, because I don't know. I felt kind of bad after the Gifts and Go. It was like, because I even remember telling this story. I was kind of intrepid about even starting one because like the day I lost my job, it was like I just was trying to figure out like next steps. I'm just like, well, fuck, my life is falling apart, right? And you know, I remember I was in the studio and there was like Mike and Elijah there, and I mentioned to them, I was like, not because I was like, hey, I lost my job. How about that Give Send Go? No, I wasn't even considering that at the time. It was just like literally a moment where I remember I was sitting there and I just had to tell them that I lost my job because I felt like I was being a real stick in the mud, you know, when we were like back in the studio or whatever. And I was like, guys, I'm sorry, man. Like, I'm not trying to be like so dour. Today's not been a good day. And, you know, on their behest, you know, they got everything started. And I would have been grateful for like $1 or whatever. And I'm not trying to like humble Max. I just mean like any amount I was grateful for. But the fact that people donated so much really meant a lot to me. And so I appreciate it. It really helped me out a lot. You guys have no idea. Villarica is a small town outside of Atlanta. Oh, Atlanta. That sounds bad, dude. I don't know about that. That sounds bad. Oh, also, I need to mod some people. I need to mod Chuddy Cheese. I need to mod Eric. Let's see here. Yeah, I love Chuddy Cheese. He's like one of my favorite. Guys. Oh, let's see here. 2 more super chats. Chuddy Cheese, $3. Total Gooner Death. I appreciate it, brother. Yes, total Gooner Death for sure. Roman America sent $2. Pinesap, I'm starting a podcast next week, Ash Wednesday. It's audio only, so please don't make fun of me for being an amateur. No, that's totally fine, man. I'll try to check it out. Cowboy Groiper sent $5. Hello there. LS Swap Your Car. What is LS Swap Your Car? Dude, is that like a Ligma thing? Am I getting trolled right now? Cowboy Groiper, are you pulling like a Ligma thing on me, bro? I'm so behind on these like TikTok jokes or whatever. I'm so behind on them, dude. I just don't even know what they are. He's gonna be like, LS means lick my nutsack or something, and I'm gonna be like, fuck, dude. I mean, I'm not wearing socks, so it would be gay. So, you know, sadly, I'm gay. You know, I'm sorry, guys. I should have had socks on, but you know, that is what that is, right? Let's see here. Man, what should we cover? I just want to watch or look at something that's not going to get like the stream taken down because of like copyright stuff. You know what I mean? Like that's my main concern now, because I remember last time we were, you know, watching that documentary and the BBC decided to, you know, copyright strike my thing. It means put a good morning crate motor in your car. Okay, a GM. An LS is an engine. Okay, that's sick. That's sick, actually. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Cowboy Groiper. Yeah, dude, I maybe need an LS engine. Movie time with Sap. Well, we'll see, man. I'm trying to see what we can watch that's not going to get, like, taken down. Bad Bunny's Super Bowl performance? No, thank you, dude. Okay, why is there, like, Gooner bait stuff on... I haven't even been watching it. Dude, I never use Brave, and there's, like, Gooner bait stuff. It's, like, some girl being like, I'm doing yoga, and it's, like, her full, like, booty in the camera thumbnail shot, and I'm like, come on, bro. That's not it. We're not doing that. We're not doing that, actually. Made by Chebby. What's made by Chebby? Made by Chebby. Chevy Checker. Oh, I thought that was a YouTube channel. I looked it up and it just came up with Chevy Checker. 25 Christians versus 25 atheists. That sounds fucking terrible, dude. I do not want to watch that shit. Trying the most underrated fast food menu. Who here remembers what's Elsa Gate? Oh shit, I do remember Elsa Gate. Yeah, where like it was one of those things where the there were those weird like children's videos that had like Elsa and Spider-Man in them, but they're like weird fetish videos. So it was like just repeating even some of the titles of them, like Elsa big pregnant belly fart feet. It's like what? I mean, you know, listen, I got that on watch later, but no, I'm kidding. No, but no, dude, it was like weird stuff like that. It was like literally, you know, like Elsa pregnant feet smashing bean burritos type stuff. And I was like, dude, we're not doing that. Like that's nasty. That's horrible. Oh, God Community Leader sent $2. Thank you, brother. Pine Sap, I'm buying a semi-truck next week. Should I get a Peterbilt or a Kenworth or a Ford cab over from the 80s? I trust your expert semi-truck opinions. Okay, well, I know nothing about semi-trucks, but let's look these bad boys up. Let's look these bad guys up. So I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be completely real with you, my boy. Since I know nothing next to trucks, this is probably going to be a very shallow, like, I just think that looks cool type opinion. But you know what? We'll check it out. Ford cab over from the 80s. Let's see here. No, not the 80s. I want the Ford cab over. And then we'll look up Elsa pregnant feet after. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking around, you know. Dude, okay, that was kind of funny. There was this like Redeemed Zoomer fan that made this like A-log video about me, and it was about my rant on like Luna Pause. And listen, you know, call me a freak. I stand by that opinion. She's hot, bro. Like she is so bad. Like, I understand why people become furries now. I get it. Like they had no business drawing her that way. And I remember like the A-log video was like taking the line I said from that street, like, and other asinine stuff like that. And then it was literally me just giving that entire rant on Luna Pause. And he would like keep playing that like line over and over. I thought it was the funniest thing in the entire world, bro. It was so funny. Oh, your video's delayed and not watching your voice. Oh, did we take a dip? Hold on, my boy. Okay, it fixed. Let's go. We're so back. We are so back, actually. Spider-Man Elsagate. So the Peterbilt. Okay, that kind of looks pretty standard. Kind of something like that. That looks pretty standard. The Kenworth. Dude, that kind of looks sick, actually. I'm not going to lie. That looks like the front of a train. Not seeing a lot of a difference between the Kenworth and the Peterbilt. Maybe like the lights. I kind of like the Kenworth more than the Peterbilt. But then the... Oh, dude. Okay, that's kind of cool. Is this the Ford truck that you were talking about, buddy? I got to go with the Ford truck. That's kind of like unconventional. And I like kind of unconventional trucks and stuff like that. So... I final decision, go with the Ford cab over. That seems really cool. I think YouTube is attacking your viewers. Why? What is YouTube doing, bro? That's crazy. From YouTuber historian to disturbing lolcow. The incel. The coming incel revolution. This topic. Okay, let's see here. Dude, 41 minutes? Okay, hold on. We're not going to watch this entire video. I don't have that in me, but we'll watch a little bit.
One of the most taboo in all of society. Most people won't discuss it or even think about it since they don't want to deal with the immense social shaming that comes from it. As a person who studies history, you tend to see that we're incredibly ruthless to previous.
I just realized that the audio for desktop was not on. Let me turn that on.
History. That being said, every era of history thinks they're in the right, and they always do something wrong in a major way. Thus, it goes without saying that we're doing the same thing since every society does so. The human mind projects, and thus society which hates its ancestors really hates itself. That being said, someone needs to discuss the elephant in the room. As my father said growing up to me, if no one in the room is doing the right thing, that makes it your duty. I sincerely believe that the issues in modern dating are so horrible that they will cause a revolution in the next few years. For people new to my channel, that may sound insane, but I believe it unironically.
That's me and my boys for real, for real. Hold on.
That will cause a revolution in the next few years.
That's me and my boys, like, posted up for real. Like, us, like, total nihilistic incel, black pill incels. That's totally us. That's completely us right there. Like, dude, we're rioting for no reason. We're angry because we're, like, lonely incel chuds. That's how I'm feeling right now.
People new to my channel, that may sound insane, but I believe it unironically. I've made several videos talking about why I believe America in a clash, and once it's occurred, as I believe it will. The purpose of this video is to tease out what I've said before is the biggest crisis of our time. And
yeah, this video sucks. I would kind of agree, bro. He's boring as shit. Like, I'm not even trying to be gay only. You. That's disgusting. Isn't that just like San Francisco already? Dude, that's insane. They turn their kids into stuffed animals. There were foster parents who's... Wait, what?
Genuine question, why are we pretending like this story is real? It's been debunked like 20 times, and I've even done it myself once. This is another scary fact video that I got tagged in that's obviously fake. It shows an AI-generated image of a...
Yeah, I was gonna say, her face is all, like, fucked up and stuff like that. Like, there's no way that was real. Dude... What if Altus needs to start gooning to Athena and Odin again? Dude, he's just a freak, and he's boring too. He looks like, you know what if Altus looks like? He looks like, bro looks like Big Al from Big Al's Toy Barn. Like, tell me, like, spot the difference. Hold on. Spot the difference. We got Big Al from Big Al's Toy Barn. That's some Toy Story lore right there. Right? Big Al from Big Al's Toy Barn, and then we've got What If Altus. Like, tell me bro does not look like Big Al. It's uncanny, dude. It's so like, am I looking at a What If Altus thumbnail right now, bro? I feel like I'm looking at a What If Altus thumbnail. That is, like, uncanny, actually. That's insane. Dude, that's terrible. That's just absolutely terrible. Middle ground. Conservative teens versus liberal parents. See, okay, we just scrolled past it. Like, this is the crap I'm talking about. Like, Gooner bait. I haven't even looked up... Guys, look. I have not looked up any Gooner stuff on Brave. So I don't know why it's trying to recommend me that stuff. That's insane. Beating Minecraft, but I can't beat the laws of Judaism. That's crazy, dude. Let's see. I think someone suggested what we should watch in chat. Family friendly, LOL. Pine Sap, what if Altus laughing reaction? Dude, so true. White versus black barbecue. Dude, YouTube is just all fucking slop. This is so bad. This is just so bad. Like, I don't like any of this stuff. I mean, it's not on my YouTube account, so it's not curated, but it's like SNL slop. It's like Future Shock. We'll do that the next episode, my brother. I think that's a little too long for this this sort of interaction. Maybe we could watch some Cliff Nectley clips. We'll do that and kind of discuss them. That actually wouldn't be too bad. Best of Cliff Nectley classics.
I don't base my life on 100% proof.
Well, maybe that's your problem.
Oh, you do? You base your life on 100% proof?
Yes.
Oh, really?
That's why I'm skeptical of everything.
Really?
Where is he?
Where is he?
Yeah.
He's in heaven.
No, he's dead then.
Become a Christian, and you did. If your parents would have taught you to be atheist, you'd be an atheist.
You got belief, sir.
Did Jesus ever claim to be God?
Yeah, he sure did.
Yes.
John 8:58, Jesus says, before Abraham was born, I am. In John 10:30, Jesus says, I and the Father are one. In John 14:9, Jesus says, he who has seen me has seen the Father. Clearly, Jesus claimed to be God.
Welcome to 1 hour of the best of Cliff Classics, where we're diving into some of the most memorable educational moments and fiery debates.
Many different religions that are on this planet are basically metaphors that were imposed by the very, very early civilization to have some sort of order over the people. Leaders of very ancient civilizations had no control over these people unless they said, listen, there is a god or many gods up there that will punish you unless you do the right things.
Yes, that's happened. I agree.
And so then how, without...
That is some, like, that is just some fucking slop, dude. No. And here's the thing. Like, I would even go so far as to venture to say, I don't doubt maybe there were some pagan religions where, yeah, it was that way. It was like just to create social cohesion. But I think even a lot of false religions, really in what reality they are, is their reflection, their reflections and refractions of elements of the truth, but they're not like, I don't think that most of them were even like made up to control people. I think it instead was people separated from God trying to figure out what is actually the truth of the universe. Like, I mean, that's why, for instance, like in Buddhism, you know, Buddha said a lot that was intuitively true. He said a lot that was very intuitively true. In fact, I have low-key even thought about reacting to, and it's kind of long, so I don't really want to do it tonight, but I have even thought about doing a reaction to the animated film about Buddha and showing like what he said, how what he said was true, but points to Christ and stuff like that. I think that may be a really good episode. I think I'm even going to do that next week. I think that will probably be next week's episode. But like, you look at like Buddhism or you look at like Stoicism or what have you, which Stoicism's not like a religion, it's a philosophy, but it's more so people trying to contend with what they know about reality, right? So it's them trying to like figure out, based on my intuitive experience, observable phenomenon, what I know is written on my heart from God, but they don't know it's God, right? Here's what I think is true. I don't think it's literally like rich and powerful people that got up together and said, okay, let's see how we can control people with this made up deity. This is just like some retarded, like fake degree Freud slop. Like this is a girl who thinks she's like way more intelligent than she actually is. And she got some special degree that makes her think that she's like, you know, literally like Marcus Aurelius or whatever. And that she had this really deep epiphany because she read this like one postmodern book about religion, right? That's sold at like Barnes and Noble. I mean, come on, dude. Oh, did Matt get back to me? I think we were going to do something next week. I'll try to figure that out. I'm trying to get that Buddha build tips. Are you talking about the statues where he's fat, or are you talking about the ones where he's skinny? If he's skinny, literally just do like, a caloric deficit or whatever. I mean, my one friend reduced his calorie intake to like 600 a day, and you'll be there in no time. But if you're doing the fat one, dude, literally just go to like, I don't know if you guys have Fat Shack in your state, but towards every college campus, there's this like gross, disgusting, it is the most goy slop food in the entire world restaurant called Fat Shack. And it's literally just absolute slop. It is like the most seed oil, like laden, like you literally get diarrhea and stomach problems after eating it. I had some of it in college. In fact, one of the iconic images that I sent that people like morphed my face, you can still find in like some sticker packs. I was actually in Fat Shack getting some like deep fried Oreos when I was in college, and I think that was my junior year. But yeah, I that's the only thing I ever got there was like deep fried Oreos on occasion. I even remember the last time I got them was years ago, and I like ate one and I was like, this is just so disgusting. I like threw it out. Like it was the most nasty thing I think I've ever had.
Okay, what you have said so far is that you assume that
So yeah, if you eat that food, you'll be able to fat max.
the Bible is true, correct?
No. Never once did I say, I assume the Bible's
Okay,
true.
you know the Bible is true. That's what you were saying?
I said the evidence is the Gospels are historically accurate. That's
All right,
what I
what
said.
you've basically been saying is that you are assuming, for the sake of argument, you are assuming that the Bible is true.
No.
Okay, well, let's just say that for the sake of argument. Just leave it there, all right?
I'm not out here to just have for the sake of argument, ma'am. I'll be real blunt with
Yes,
you.
you are. All right.
No, I'm not. I am sharing honestly my thoughts, and I trust that you guys are sharing honestly your thoughts. And if you don't want to share honestly, I don't have time. There are too many other people who got their hands up. If you want to share honestly with me, I'd love to talk with you.
I would love to.
Please do that.
Let me talk. Thank you. If you're assuming that the Bible is true, then going by anything else, listen to me.
I am listening. I can't believe you're contradicting me. But go ahead.
Oh my God. All right.
Well, I don't do that to you. I don't treat you that way.
You have been.
No, I have
Treat
not.
all these people.
I do not contradict you. I seek to listen to you and understand what you're saying, and then answer you head to head.
All right, listen.
I am.
The evidence that you have said to prove all the different things that you have answered these people's questions with all stem from the Bible and God's teachings through Jesus. That is what you've been saying.
No, it is not.
All right, well, that's what a lot of people have been getting out of it.
I said very clearly that if you believe God exists because a book tells you to, you're a fool. I would never believe God exists because a book tells me God exists.
Why do you believe in Jesus Christ?
Jesus Christ is a different issue.
Why?
Jesus Christ is an historical figure. I believe in an historical figure because books tell me.
Because books tell you.
Because of an historical figure. God is not an historical figure.
All right, well, basically what I'm trying to say is that you are not thinking for yourself about all the different issues. Instead, you are going to a book, a man. I totally agree with you. Jesus was alive.
Mo Gummy sent $3. Speaking of caloric deficit, Lent starts next week. You guys ready? I'm trying to get ready for that. Yeah, I'm still trying to discern what I should give up, but yeah, I'm trying to get ready because I know I want to do enough that my Lent is real and fruitful, but not like so much that you kind of not overburden. You like kind of like overextend yourself and then you do none of it. So I'm trying to make sure I do kind of like a proper amount of things. Probably like maybe giving up some certain things that I eat or whatever. Maybe giving up coffee would be a good idea as part of a larger thing, not just that like lame Lent stuff where it's like I'm giving up chocolate. It's like, okay, you can give up more than chocolate, bro. I don't mean it in that way. I just mean like things that I have every single day or I'm very reliant on. I'm very reliant on coffee. So I think that maybe should be a part of my fasting, but I'm going to try to see if I can do more. Travis is dead ass going to give up porn for Lent. Who's Travis, dude? And he should just be giving up porn to give up porn. Like, you shouldn't be like, that should be like right now thing. That shouldn't be like I'm giving up. And I'm laughing just because that sounds silly, but it's like, that's just sinning. Like, just don't sin, dude. Don't be doing sin. Like that shouldn't be a like, I understand trying to use Lent to like not sin anymore, but it's like, that just should be something that you make a resolution to try and work on today. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect at it, but it's like, because my problem with someone saying like, oh, I'm giving up like porn or like sex or something sinful for Lent. It's like, you shouldn't be my brother in Christ, you should not be doing that regardless. Like, why are like that defeats the purpose of Lent. Like, Lent is giving up stuff that isn't bad, but it's like trying to give up stuff for the sake of God that is otherwise good stuff. Like, drinking coffee is good, right? That's good for you. Or like someone said, like, trying to give up nicotine. Like, nicotine's not sinful or bad. So yeah, that would make sense that would be part of, like, you know, a sort of sacrifice for Lent. But dude, like, just saying that you're stopping sin for Lent, it's like, my brother in Christ, you should not be sinning to begin with. Like, oh, do you mean Travis Wigger, who is in the chat? Bro, I love that guy. He just needs to he just needs to chill out. That's all I'm gonna say. He needs to chill out a little bit. I love him, but he just needs to chill out. That's crazy. Yes, I know who Travis is now. I was not clued in. Yeah, Vincent, I'm going to give up cheating on my wife for Lent. Dude, Elijah Schaefer check. No. giving up twerking for my wife for Lent. Yeah, dude, I'm giving up buzzing it down for bicep for Lent. Dude, yeah, I'm giving up dworking. That's actually what I'm giving up. I'm a dworker. I've been dworking day and night. I'm giving that up though. I'm getting like you like, and that's wildly stupid and just dumb. But it's like, do you hear that? How that sounds? It's like when someone's like, I'm giving up porn for Lent. It's like, you might as well say you're giving up like dworking or whatever. Like, come on, dude, lock in. Just stop.
Jesus was a very awesome man. I do not believe that he is the Son of God. I believe that you should be able to look at things rationally and separately without having to look at the Bible to tell you what the answer is. And from what I've been hearing, that is like the...
And that's why my morality is like never being heckin' mean unless it means having 20 abortions. Like, that's always what this conversation devolves into. Like, these people will always say like, oh, morality is about being a good person, and that's why I'm literally going to kill a child in the womb. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so unserious. Like, their own hermeneutic for understanding morality disproves itself with how absurd it is. It's like, they make a bigger deal about like social perception or the way you're regarded by other people than like the literal fact that like they're you know, choosing to kill their child in the womb. What? That's an asinine concept of morality. I'm doing the Great Fast with St. Michael's Abbey. Heck yeah, dude, that's awesome. Chuddy! No! Chuddy! Dude, Chuddy said in chat, giving up jorking it to Elsa for Lent. Chuddy, no. Why are you jerking it to Elsa, dude? Elsa, we've already been over Elsa Gate. Chuddy, you need to give that up, dude. That's terrible. That's awful. Don't do that. That is, my brother, stop. That is terrible. It's time to stop. I'm going to give up my daily nutritional need of a quarter-pounder cheeseburger. Good idea. This woman has rat physiognomy. Yeah, she's got that kind of like, I don't know, weird mousy look to her. Not even mousy. Yeah, that kind of like weird, I don't know, like rad femme look to her.
For most of your answers to these people's questions is because God gave us justice. God gave us this. God made this. God provided this. If God...
Is Jorkin to penis Vance giving up anything? I hope he gives up being a fat piece of shit for Lent. That would be a good idea. Can't stand that guy, dude.
Created everything on this planet, then why are there things that are just completely, like, for instance, if he created all the plants and all the people and all the animals, and he created all of that stuff for us to use to get closer to him, then was he mistaken to create things like pot and cocaine and heroin? Was he mistaken?
Obviously, the Bible does not teach that God created every living being for you to snort or digest.
But he created everything on this planet. What I got out of the Old Testament was that he created the plants and the animals for humans to use.
That's so dumb because it's like, okay, let's take opium, for instance, the ingredient of heroin. Well, opium, I can use a million different ways. I can use it in surgery to help heal someone and use it as a local anesthetic so that that person is not being harmed during the surgery. Or I can use it to shoot up. But the thing is neutral in of itself. Like the poppy flower in of itself is a neutral, not entity, but it's a neutral thing. It's a neutral plant. The way I choose to use it determines whether it's moral or not. Like, that's kind of besides the point, right? Yeah, Vincent said in chat, God created rocks, so that must mean I should eat them. Yeah, it is kind of that line of thinking. It's like, oh, God created rocks. I can break my teeth on rocks, so therefore, if God was so good, why did he create rocks that break my teeth when I try to eat them? Like, what? That's insane, dude. He's going to give up eating shit. Yeah, so true. Yeah, JD Vance is like, tells Nick to go eat shit, and it's like, sorry, but I already had dinner, pal. I appreciate the invite to dinner, but I'm already full. Okay. More chicken. Well, okay. I'm not going to dog on chicken tikka masala. I do like a mean chicken tikka masala, but Indian food is awful, dude.
And he created all of these things for us to have and to be around and to enjoy.
To enjoy, yes, but not to snort or digest.
But from the Old Testament, all of these things were put on the planet and they were all good. In the Old Testament it says, and God made the plants and they were good. Okay, well then, was he mistaken in creating all of these things that can hurt us, like belladonna, like henbane, like all of these horrible plants that if you even touch them, you can die?
No. The first point is, the good creation was cursed, we read in Genesis chapter 3. When human beings rebelled against God, the good creation was cursed. So you and I do not live in the Garden of Eden. We live in a cursed, messed up world. And the second point is, even in the Garden of Eden, God did not necessarily create a tree for me to eat the bark or the wood. That's incorrect conclusion.
But then we were created physically to not be able to deal with the surroundings. We have to go to medicine and to things that were made from plants, such as aspirin. We use these drugs and these medicines.
Yeah, dude, Sanctified, that's so true. The best Indian dish is literally English, and it's chicken tikka masala, right? It is literally chicken tikka masala, right? And that's a British English dish. It's like, I can't even hardly, I'm trying to even think what like the other dishes. Are Momo dumplings Indian? I like Momo dumplings. Those are good. I like those. Origin. Okay. Oh, so they're Tibetan actually. Yeah, those are delicious. I know they're served sometimes at. So it's like all the Indian restaurants are just poaching like actually good food from the surrounding area. They're literally just poaching like good food from the surrounding area. So it's like, bro, they literally bro stole my whole flow. Bar from bar, word from word. It's like, that's literally how Indian food is. It's like, bro stole my whole flow. Bar for bar, word for word. Like, is there anything original at these Indian restaurants? Like, it's all from countries that have way better palates and cuisine. Samosa, you mean? No, dude, Momo. Momo dumplings, they're good.
Make ourselves better to keep ourselves from dying. If he made us so faulty that we cannot combat the diseases that are on this planet, period, then I just see that if you are considering that God made us perfect, the way he wanted us, then why do we have all of the problems with health that we do? Why cannot we eat the leaves off the tree and be sustained?
Okay. Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2 teach us that when God initially created us, there was no disease and no death. It's a result of human rebellion against God that the good creation runs amok, havoc breaks loose, suffering and death enter the experience of humankind. Obviously, Jesus died on a cross to forgive us, and he rose from the dead to give us eternal life in heaven, where there will be no more disease, no more suffering, no more death.
All right, using the word obviously makes me think that you are assuming that everything you have heard about Jesus and from the Bible is true. That's why I said what I said earlier, just so you know.
That's a very incorrect conclusion you just made.
Well, you used
I said, obviously, the reason that Jesus died on the cross, he claimed, is to forgive us for our sin, and the reason he rose from the dead is to give us eternal life in a heaven where there is no longer going to be the existence of this very real disease and death that you and I have just been talking about. That is not a statement of my view of the Bible.
That debate got intense. Let's jump into the next one.
There are 3 philosophical reasons that I don't trust Muhammad. First point, you will notice that the miracle of Christianity is Jesus Christ. And you don't have to speak a particular language to hear about Jesus. The miracle of Islam is not a person. The miracle of Islam is the book, the Quran. But when you begin to study Islam, what you begin to realize is the only way you can truly appreciate the miracle of Islam is by reading it in Arabic. My philosophical problem with that is, why all of a sudden, when God reveals himself very wonderfully in an open way in Jesus, does he suddenly say, the only way to get my clearest revelation is by learning Arabic?
That's a good point.
Were sent to all the nations in the world to spread the word of Islam. It says that in the Quran. Another thing, the Quran is not the word of Muhammad, it is the word of God.
Thank you. It's the word of God. That's right. But it was written by Muhammad.
It was not written by Muhammad.
Who wrote it?
Muhammad was illiterate. He didn't know how to write or read.
Who wrote it?
It was the word of God. It is the divine word.
You see? It's every single time. They're very consistent. I appreciate it. All right? It is the word of God. They're very passionate about it. I respect your passion. There's no way you can rationally have a conversation with that. The same way, if you ask me, why do you believe the Bible's the word of God? And I look you in the face and I say, because it's the word of God. Rational discourse is broken down. All right, my second philosophical problem with Islam is, my Muslim friends inform me, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are inaccurate. They're perverted gospels.
In fact, it's been changed, they will say.
Right, exactly. So then obviously the next question is, well, where are the unperverted ones? Unfortunately, my Muslim friends cannot produce the unperverted ones. Instead, what my Muslim friends ask me to believe is that a revelation that Muhammad had 500 years after Jesus, which obviously means Muhammad never met Jesus, that book, the Quran, is a more accurate presentation of the historical Jesus than the Gospels written by the eyewitnesses. Well, I'm sorry. Whenever I want to study an historical person, I don't go running to a guy who lived 500 years after the fact. I want to go to the eyewitnesses. I'm not going to trust Martin Scorsese to be my primary source of information about Jesus. Martin Scorsese never met Jesus, neither did Cecil B. DeMille. I'm going to go back to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, who live in the first century, to be my primary source of information about Jesus. Third point. My third philosophical problem with Islam is, my Muslim friends have great respect for Jesus. In fact, my Muslim friends respect Jesus far more than the typical American does. My Muslim friends believe that Jesus...
I got muted in the RZ Discord for saying Muhammad had sex with Afghan men. Man, that guy. You guys already know my thoughts on him, but man, that guy. He's just been getting worse, dude. I mean, he's been crashing out. I mean, considering that it's like Christian Wagner was always very conciliatory towards him, way more than me. I know myself, and I know that I'm not. If you piss me off, I'm not very conciliatory. So, that's who I am. But Christian has always been very measured and kind and all that stuff. And it's like, bro blocked Christian Wagner. I think that needs to tell you everything that you need to know about Redeem Zoomer, dude. He is. I think he really knows that his relevancy or his zenith on the internet has already passed, not in a manner of like, and I don't say that in a mean way of like content or whatever, which, who cares? It's like, yeah, there's going to be a day where people aren't watching my streams as much or watching Joe Blow's stream as much. Like, you're not always going to be in the limelight forever. I don't even mean it in that way. What I mean by relevancy is that I think he intuitively knows that the Protestant project is dead. It's dead. That's what I mean by his relevancy is past, right? His relevancy is not past in terms of content necessarily. I mean, heck, he could probably still be doing streams and videos and having, millions of people watching, and I would still say the same thing. His relevancy is past in the sense that Redeem Zoomer at one point in his career kind of acted as this like bridge to Catholicism or what have you. And that's when his content was kind of like at its zenith, right? And he kind of seemed like this open truth seeker. You know, he had just started the Reconquista, and you know, it's not that people expected him to become Catholic tomorrow or whatever. I certainly, when I considered him a friend, didn't expect that of him either. I know conversion takes time, but he was getting closer to truth. That was the thing that I appreciated about, sorry, I was reading the chat about Chip Turner said something about, I'm so tired of this. Can we just crusade? Soon, brother, soon. But anyhow, he was getting closer to truth, and he seemed very open to understanding and knowing and internalizing the truth. And that was something that I appreciated about him and why I considered him a friend for a long time. I didn't expect that he would become Catholic tomorrow. I know conversion takes time, and I wanted to be patient in that, you know, and people, I mean, look, there were times where people were genuinely kind of mean to him or not nice or what have you. And I was like, guys, you know, let's remember our charity and what have you, you know, and that's coming from someone who's not very charitable himself, but he seemed like he was coming along. And then it's like after he got married and after Joe Heschmeyer released that video on him, everything just kind of like spun out. He got very like weird. He got very combative, but like in a very uncharitable way where he wasn't even trying to understand the arguments or approach them from a truthful standpoint. He was just kind of being overly dismissive and undercutting them. I mean, I'll give an example of someone who is Protestant, but I respect very much. Like, I respect the other Paul like hell, dude. He is honestly, of any debate that I've had, I've debated Jay Dyer, I've debated Adam Green, I've debated Kai Clips, I've debated all these different guys. The other Paul was the person that I respected the most, and I'm going to be honest, I was fighting for my life in that debate. That was tough. Now, I don't think Protestantism is true, and I still think that the truth was on my side. I don't think I did as well in that debate. That was probably, I would say, my worst debate, but needless to say, he is an incredibly intelligent guy. And when he does try to, you know, kind of engage in conversations with Catholics, he's not unfair. He doesn't use points that are like stupid or these kinds of like cheap owns about, oh, I read this this thing from Jay Dyer and this is what he said, or I read this Vatican Catholic article and this is what it said. He actually tries to approach from a classical Protestant perspective, like his objections to why he's not Catholic. And, you know, of course, and I say this as his friend, he's wrong, and I want him to become Catholic, but he's a truth seeker. And that's why I'm friends with the other Paul, right? And why I would give my life for him and why I see him as a dear brother. I have an IRL friend who reminds me a lot of the other Paul, and he's an incredibly intelligent Protestant. Very well versed in apologetics and stuff like that. He doesn't use stupid points either. But, you know, Redeem Zoomer, like using all these, and we covered this on the stream, but it's like using all these recycled talking points. It's like, my guy, we covered this like 3 years ago, bro. Like, just go look up our streams or our videos or our topics, you know, covering these objections that you're bringing up. He doesn't care to. So he claims to be a truth seeker, but then it's like he's overly dismissive when we rebut those points, and he just calls it cope or, basically sophistry. And so all that is to say is that his crash out has been definitely some kind of spiritual pre-lust. I think bro is definitely dealing with some kind of spiritual pre-lust. Like it is demonic. His crash out is very demonic in nature. And I'm not saying that he's possessed. I don't think he's possessed at all, but I do think that the devil has legitimately placed a veil over his eyes, and it has made him very, very difficult and willing to see the truth and live that truth out. So, you know, as harsh as I've been towards him, as much as I've gone off on him, we do need to pray for him. I do want him to become Catholic and be saved. I don't want him to go to hell at all. There's still a big part of me that does love the guy and really want, and I always, even if I didn't have any regard for him, I would still love him or want to strive to love him. I certainly don't hate him or, want him to crash out or anything, but I don't know. He's off the reservation, man. We really, really got to pray for that guy.
Jesus was born of a virgin.
Also, that guy's fucking jacked, bro. I need to like learn his gym routine. Do you see that? Dude's like bicep is like the size of like a thigh or something. That's insane.
That he ascended to heaven and then he's coming back a second time. Well, that's far more than the typical American believes about Jesus. But my Muslim friends say that although Jesus speaks the absolute truth, Muhammad also speaks absolute truth. And the problem is they contradict each other on certain points. You cannot have A be absolute true and then B be absolute true if A and B contradict each other. Because that does nothing then but to allow for C to come along, claiming C is absolute truth, in spite of the fact that C contradicts both B and A. You cannot have an absolute truth contradicted by another absolute truth.
Did Jesus ever claim to be God?
Yeah, he sure did.
When-
John
in the
8:58,
Bible?
Jesus says, before Abraham was born, I am. In John 10:30, Jesus says, I and the Father are one. In John 14:9, Jesus says, he who has seen me has seen the Father. Clearly, Jesus claimed to be God.
So he was both human and God at the same time?
That's what he claimed. Maybe he was a lunatic, but that's what he claimed.
He wasn't a lunatic. He was a prophet.
Well, he claimed to be God in human form, which means he's more than a prophet. He's God in human form.
But
what he claimed.
God is something that's superior to human form, so it doesn't make sense for God to be human because he wouldn't necessarily be higher than the other.
All right, first point is God is not something. The Bible says that God is someone, a personal being. And it's totally possible for a personal being who's the creator to humble himself and become a human being.
I don't know, I read it or I heard it. What if somebody comes to you and tells you the gods are dead?
Right.
And you know the word dead. Dead is gone.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Where are we?
Well, I think it's real simple. God is dead. Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche is dead. God. Which one is true?
Nietzsche was not God.
No. Friedrich Nietzsche said, God is dead. My response to Friedrich Nietzsche is dead. God. Point is, God's not dead. What an incredible statement is that for Nietzsche to make? God is dead.
Yesterday you said the Lord, Jesus Christ, is God.
Yes.
But Jesus Christ is crucified, he's dead.
And he rose from the dead.
Well, where is he?
Where is he?
Yeah.
He's in heaven.
Now he's dead then.
No. He's alive.
I mean, when you die and you go to when you die and you go to heaven, you're dead. I mean, you're not alive. That's my philosophy of interpreting your words. I don't know whether I'm there or not. That's how I interpret your words. Am I correct?
All right. Let's go over it step by step. He died on a cross. He was put in a tomb.
Oh, we know that. We know the story. We know everything.
I don't think you all do.
We know
Maybe you
the
do.
story.
I don't think everybody here does.
Yes, we know it. Everybody knows.
He was put in a tomb. A stone was rolled in front of the tomb. A Roman guard was set to make sure that nobody would steal his body.
Yes, we know the
All
story.
of his disciples dispersed in disillusionment. Case closed. The guy's dead.
There we go.
3 days after that, they saw him risen from the dead.
No, that's right. I'm full of...
Oh, wait, let's see here. Sorry, Mo Gummy sent $3. She was like, read my chat, you chud. Hey, listen, I didn't mean to, I wasn't ignoring it. I wasn't ignoring. I had to see it. Let's see. Wait, is that why Muslim apologists believe the Bible is corrupted because it's written by humans in the physical sense? That's actually a great question. I don't know. I off the top of my head, I think their justification from what I remember hearing is that it's sort of similar to like the great apostasy with Mormonism, right? Like this idea that, Jesus is, that Jesus is real, and their false heretical view that Jesus is merely a prophet and Judas replaced his place on the cross during the crucifixion, but that Jesus is real, but that basically the early Christians like instantly corrupted the word of God. And so what was needed was the prophet Muhammad to come along and deliver the true word, i.e. the Quran. That's what I understand from what Muslim apologists claim. I don't know if they say that. I don't think I remember them saying that the Bible was corrupted because a human wrote it. I think what they claim is that it was corrupted because it was sort of this great apostasy event that happened right after our Lord ascended into heaven. And so immediately, like, nobody had like the true faith amongst them. And that's why the Bible is corrupted. That's my understanding from what I remember hearing from Muslim apologists. But that's a great question. I need to look back into it.
You're right. I agree. I know that. We know that. Everybody knows that.
So they saw Jesus over a period of 40 days. He appeared at different times in different places, risen from the dead. Then he ascended to heaven.
True.
So you ask me, where's Jesus now? Well, he's not over in Palestine. He ascended to heaven.
Well, my point, you probably didn't get my point. Do you believe, or do we have this great belief that Jesus Christ is returning to our planet?
He promised to return again.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yes, sir. He promised to return again. Correct.
So that's where you say he's still alive, somewhere, like you said, in heaven.
Yes.
That's your point.
Yes, sir.
That's kind of the definition of life is a little bit, I don't know, fluctuated here.
You bet.
Where is life? There is life, like they are trying to find that there is life all over. I don't know.
Okay, good point.
What
I don't know either.
What is it? So
Okay.
we just believe, huh? We just have this belief.
No. Based on the historical resurrection of Jesus from the dead,
Yes.
I am convinced that when Jesus said that there's life after death, that he wasn't blowing smoke. He was speaking the truth.
Just for him or for everybody?
He promised that all of us who put our faith in him would receive eternal life. And because of his resurrection from the dead, I believe him. I went to college, and in college I would sit and learn from professors. The reason that I took what those professors said seriously was because the evidence was that they had studied hard, they had earned PhDs, they were educated men and women. Because of that, evidence of reliability, I sat in class, paid a lot of money to learn from them. That's faith. The reason that I trust Jesus when he says there's life after death is not because he has some earned PhDs. Rather, it's because he was dead, and then he rose from the dead. That convinces me he's a reliable source of information about life after death.
How about the timing now? Do we have any knowledge about the timing of his return?
Great question. I am personally embarrassed by those churches that take out advertisements in the Wall Street Journal and say, October 28th, Jesus Christ will return. No, in Matthew chapter 24, Jesus clearly said, no one knows the day or hour of my return. Not the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. So, sir, I do not know when Jesus is going to return.
So that means, it's not that means, but it's like unlucky for those believers, super believers like you, for example. Say, I'm not saying, say somebody dies, like, a great believer dies tomorrow.
Yes.
And then in a year or so, Jesus Christ will come back to earth. What's the impact on their belief that those who were dead? Or would they know that their Lord came back, or would they do the same thing? I mean, you see what I'm saying?
That's a great point you're making. It's the exact point of the people in the church at Thessalonica.
The church of what?
In Thessalonica.
What's that?
That's a city near the Mediterranean over in Asia Minor. Paul, the Apostle Paul, who was a follower of Jesus, wrote a letter to this church at Thessalonica. And part of the letter is dealing with the exact issue you raised. These Christians saw their fellow believers dying, and they thought, oh no, they're dying and Jesus hasn't returned. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
So you're asking the same question they were asking.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
What is
and
it?
Paul writes in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, for the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, with a trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first.
Wow.
Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and thus we shall always be with the Lord. So those believers in Thessalonica had the same question you did, and Paul says, don't worry, when a Christian dies, their body obviously rots, but when Jesus returns a second time, their body will be raised to life, they'll receive a new body like the resurrection body of Christ.
Seems like it's going to be overpopulated.
Very good point. Excellent point.
I mean, billions of people.
I wanted to make sure for a moment that, and I didn't think he was saying this, but that Cliff was not denying that we like see the beatific vision before the second coming and the resurrection of the dead, because I know that there are some Protestants that do deny us seeing the beatific vision and stuff like that, which doesn't make sense because you get a lot of Protestants that, and I think maybe the reason they say this isn't that they deny the beatific vision. I think the reason they deny that like the saints can hear, your prayers or asking of their intercession is because they're not omnipotent or omnipresent like God is. However, if heaven means that we're no longer separated from God and we are together with him, we are able to hear what he hears and see what he sees, including asking of that intercession. Because when you when you die in this life that we live, theosis, right, is becoming like God. And not because you become a God like in Mormonism or what have you, but because you become reconciled with God in the kingdom of heaven, it means there's no longer any separation. And because there is no longer any separation, you are able to hear prayers of intercession when those on earth ask that you may intercede on behalf of them to the Father, right? And so sometimes Protestants speak in a weird way where they make it sound like they're almost denying that the dead see, that the souls in heaven see the beatific vision before the resurrection of the body and the second coming. But Cliff, as he clarified, isn't actually denying that. So that's good to know. I think Thessalonica is actually in Greece, more specifically Macedonia, but we get his point. Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, how?
Lots of people.
I mean, is it going to be? What is it?
Great point.
Are we imagining, or is this a true fact?
Great point.
Is this imagination, or is it?
No, Jesus wasn't imagining. He spoke real clearly.
Huh?
All right. He points out that heaven is not just God redoing this earth, but heaven includes the rest of the cosmos. So, believe it or not, there's a large there's a large cosmos out there. So no, the cosmos is not going to be overpopulated. There'll be enough resources for everybody.
That dialogue was excellent. The man raised...
That was pretty good. So I think we've been going for almost 4 hours here. I think I'm going to call it here because I feel myself starting to lose steam. But guys, thank you so much. Thank you to Art Chad. That was like an excellent collab. I hope you guys had a great time as well. I thought that was great. I thought we had such a good time and stuff like that. And I hope to be able to do another one in the future. I think there's a lot more there that we can touch on and talk about and stuff like that. And I thought it was so great that we got to discuss today. But guys, thank you for watching. It was awesome. God bless you. I can't wait to see all of you again and talk again. I think next week we'll do, I'll try to get the thumbnail made for it. I think we'll do that episode on reacting to the movie about Buddha and explaining how some of the elements of truth that he had are only fulfilled in Jesus Christ. I think that would make for a very good episode. So God bless you guys. I will see you later. And I love every single one of you. And we'll talk soon.